Yeehaw, soldiers! It's your boy, the Anime Sage, coming at you with another video, and this is What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk Part 1. Alright, so this should be a fun series to do. This, I believe, had been suggested to me by my boy Mike Law, the guy who gave me the 70 Shade cameo, and you guys voted for it, so here we are. If you guys want the series to continue, because I don't know how this will do, 1K views in 3 days, the norm for Ichigo Deku 1, and the What If Naruto was Happy have Senju What If. So anyways, in terms of this week, I should give you guys some nice what ifs this week in What If Hashirama kept the Biju Part 4 on Wednesday, and What If Naruto was Happy have Senju on Friday, as well as the Pokemon Origins Johto version Episode 2 tomorrow. Anyways, watch my community tab like a hawk. Watch for vid updates, watch for polls, watch it to select what ifs I will be doing for the week, and watch it for some other fun stuff in between. So watch my community tab like a hawk. Alright, time for some quick social media plugs. Twitter is at AnimeSage4, Instagram is anime_sage4, and my Discord is linked in the description. I'll give you all reasons to join all those at the end of the video, so watch until the end. Alright, since this is a new series, no usual checklists, let's get right into the story. Alright, so let's first get into what a fusion quirk is. So we all know what fusion is, two things or people combined together to become one entity. This has been done with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Dragon Ball, etc, etc. Fun fact, the Deku you're looking at right now, the recolor is based on the Yu-Gi-Oh fusion card color, so he's essentially used purple, you know? He's got purple hair and a purple suit he'll get in the future, so that's pretty cool. Now, Deku will be born with this unique quirk via a complete genetic anomaly, as in we have seen kids in the MHA world get quirks unlike their parents, so it'll work here. Deku, as a young 4-year-old, will start developing the fusion quirk when he accidentally fuses with a small leaf, which causes his body to turn all green-like, but his skin will be a little bit more fragile because it is out of a leaf. This will cause him to float around in the wind as he is lighter due to him fusing with the leaf. A teacher will call him to try really hard to get out of this little situation, and then Deku will end up defusing with the leaf and will start falling towards the ground into the waiting arms of a teacher. The teacher will then call Inko, and Inko will then take him to go see the doctor. Now, we're going to assume the doctor will diagnose Deku to have a quirk, and not the utter theory going around about the doctor that he stole Deku's quirk in the beginning, you know, all that stuff. Anyways, the doctor will say that Deku has a very unique quirk. It is a quirk that will allow him to fuse with objects, and maybe even people as well. Deku and his mom are very interested. However, right now, since his quirk is kind of developing at the moment, he kind of can't control what he's fusing with, so he might have to be careful with what he touches at the moment. So yeah, those first couple years are going to be very annoying. People will acknowledge that Deku's quirk is pretty powerful, including Bakugo, which will actually cause Bakugo to at least respect Deku a bit. However, I can't see them becoming friends here, because Bakugo at this point would need more than Deku to put him in the right direction, and at the moment Deku is dealing with issues of controlling his quirk, while Bakugo is ahead of him in that aspect. So Bakugo ain't going to be friends with Deku in this what if, and instead there's going to be more of a hate-filled rivalry between the two, with Deku wanting to control his quirk and beat Bakugo, while Bakugo wants to show Deku he will never be above him. Deku, over the years, in order to complement his quirk, will take martial arts, which will make him very dangerous in close hand-to-hand combat. He starts taking these classes when he is around 6 years old, which means he will be having a period of 8 to 9 years of doing non-stop martial arts training. If I were to give a comparison, he would be at least around Ichigo's level, maybe even higher, who, by the way, was the same guy who could take on multiple folks at once and was able to throw hands with Chad. So he is pretty dangerous in hand-to-hand combat. In terms of when he is able to fully control his quirk, it is around age 10 to 11, or to be more exact, not fusing with random things accidentally. It might happen once in a blue moon, but it won't happen as frequently as it used to. Now let me go into more specifics of Deku's quirk over the years. Deku has the ability to either fuse with an object and make his one body part become part of that object, or he can make his whole body into what he fused with. So an example of this is if he fused with Metal Shard. He can either make one part of his body metal, so he essentially has a metal fist, or make his whole body metal based, which means his entire body would be essentially made of metal and have the durability of metal. There are also strength and speed boosts given to Deku when he fuses with an object as well. And then in terms of fusing with people, when Deku fuses with a person, he'll create an entirely different person and will have a combination of their personalities, kind of like Dragon Ball Fusion. You know how fusion works in Dragon Ball? Yeah. He will also obtain their quirks and their physical abilities, such as strength, speed, and other stuff in between, and it is combined with his own. Now, of course, there are some downsides to this quirk. First, Deku can only fuse with one object or thing at a time, or person. Now, I will make it up to where he can fuse up to 5 things or people at a time because, you know, not counting stuff like Chimera-type monsters, or some other fusion-type monsters we all know and love. You can fuse with 5 monsters on your side of the field or your hand in Yu-Gi-Oh! At the start of a duel, if you have all like the materials and stuff like that. Again, there are some exceptions, but we'll make it up to 5 when Deku hits his peak. Anyways, the other issue is Deku, in his fusion quirk, he'll have to have the other person want to be willing to fuse with him. If that doesn't work, the person can, defuse out of him, Also, I ain't going to have him fuse with the opposite gender in What If. That opens up a whole new can of worms, where you have to determine if Deku has both parts, if you get my drift. The other weakness here for Deku is he can only keep up the form, depending on the damage he takes when it comes to object fusion. If he takes enough damage from an attack that can essentially break the form, his form will break and he'll defuse with the object, which will probably make him very vulnerable. Also, with people, he has a limited amount of time he can stay fused to someone. He will only be able to fuse with someone at a max of 15 minutes, which could also be a good thing as well. You don't really necessarily want to fuse to someone forever, Now again, there's not necessarily a time limit for an object, but there are more boosts Deku gets when it comes to fusing with a person. So everything evens out here. Deku also has a bit of a limit to what he can fuse with at the moment. He can fuse with stuff that is around his height, which, by the way, he is kind of short in the actual canon, but I think some decent exercise and stuff like that will allow him to have a height increase, so he'll be around 5'7" or 5'8", which is like an inch shorter or around the height of Bakugo. Finally, Deku can only fuse with objects, and that only includes solids, not liquids, and gases. However, if he could fuse with something like a fire truck, which he will be able to do in his prime, he would not only be able to have the metal material of a fire truck, but will also be able to use his own water cannon. Anyways, Deku will always carry some materials to fuse with, like a penny, some metal shards, and other stuff that he can fuse with in case he wants to train with his quirk or needs to protect himself. In this What If as well, we have the most important question answered. Yes, Inko will be in her prime. I just noticed that some of the baddies that I've had a slight attraction to, and then later put on a few pounds, all have the name Inko in their name. Ongo and Inko. Though with Inko, we kind of have a more decent explanation. It was in the first episode, so we never got to savor her prime, but we do know why it happened. While with Anko, I don't really want to talk about that. Anyways, Inko will be in her prime and will encourage Deku to follow his dreams because he actually has a quirk, and she will not break down in tears like in canon. Deku will also get a reputation of being a relatively good person at school, as he does stand up for those who are being bullied, so he's generally well liked, except by people like Bakugo. It is the last day of middle school and Deku will be sitting in class. Deku has been trained for a very long time and has gotten some decent grades. This is because he's not bullied as often, because he can actually do some stuff, and nobody should really be messing with a guy who can destroy someone pretty easily because, yeah, why would you attack someone who knows martial arts? Again, you try and attack someone who is very good in a close combat situation and can also fuse with stuff like metal and copper, you aren't really in a good position to mess with someone like that, Anyways, Bakugo will still make an announcement that he will be the best hero and all the other people will be essentially irrelevant. He then turns to Deku and then in his head says, "Especially you, Deku." Again, didn't say it out loud, just in his head. Though he doesn't really feel like starting stuff at the moment, as he does know Deku has gotten stronger since the day he has started controlling his quirk. However, that has motivated him to want to become stronger as well, so he has trained himself pretty well. However, if I were to say who would win, it would be a toss-up as both of these two know each other very well. The teacher will then mention that Deku wants to apply to UA, and Deku will confidently say, "Yes, and I have confidence that I will get in." Bakugo will definitely get bothered by this, and no one will necessarily laugh at Deku because it isn't like he isn't capable of doing it. Bakugo deep down definitely knows Deku can do it, but he doesn't want to admit it. After class is dismissed, Bakugo will go up to Deku and say, "Listen here, Deku. You may be strong and you have a very powerful quirk, and you may be very skilled in martial arts. However, know this. I will become the #1 hero, because with my quirk and my abilities, I will accomplish that. You will just have to settle for second place." Quick thing, yes, Bakugo still calls him Deku just to put Deku down, so don't ask the question why he's called that because I have already answered it for you. Deku then says, "Well, you definitely are powerful, Bakugo. However, my goal is to be a great hero, and as a rival, I do plan on surpassing you at the end of the day. So what you say will happen doesn't really matter to me, because what matters is accomplishments." Bakugo is irritated, but knows Deku is right, as actions do speak louder than words. So Bakugo definitely does have to back up his talk. Bakugo then says, "We'll see about that." And then Bakugo leaves the room. Deku leaves the room as well, and will head home. He will take the shortcut, as it is quicker. However, all of a sudden, he sees something approaching him. Deku will put a hand in his pocket, however the thing that was approaching him starts to envelop him, as is some sludge or something like that. The villain overtakes him and the villain says, "Well, look at what we have here. You do seem pretty strong, so I think I will take care of this body right now." Deku is choking at the moment and is trying to get out of this situation. Deku then is able to feel one of his pieces and then fuses. A flashlight commences and Deku is able to break out the sludge villain in a solid concrete-like form. Essentially, Deku had some piece of solid concrete he got by punching in his metal fused form, on a sidewalk, and had trained with it for a bit. Like, he could fuse with essentially the whole block of a sidewalk, but it isn't manageable to carry, so he just got that piece of concrete, It also was probably one of the things he didn't really want to fuse with, as he does really prefer his metal, but it got him out of the situation anyway, so that's fine at least. The sludge villain is impressed with Deku and wants him even more, and shows tendencies compared to a certain snake we all know and love. I mean, all he wants is that young Deku body, right? The sludge villain would go after Deku, and Deku would brace for some combat. However, all of a sudden, the sludge villain gets smacked by someone. It is almost like a blur, but then the sludge villain will get destroyed and put into a container. It is revealed to be All Might as he says, "Have no fear, for I am here." Deku kind of nerds out a bit as he still has been a fan of All Might for, since he was like 5, However, since he is a bit more into training, he will not nerd out as much, but still asks All Might if he can sign his journal, and All Might does so. All Might then says he has to go, but before he goes, Deku asks All Might if he can be a great hero. All Might will then say, "Well, you did a good job holding off the sludge villain, and you seem to have a very interesting quirk, as your entire body seems to be made out of concrete." Deku then explains his quirk and how it works to All Might, and All Might is impressed with Deku. He has a quirk that confuses stuff, and he can have strength boost, speed boost, and other stuff, so he is definitely intrigued by this boy. All Might then says, "You'll make a fine hero one day, young man. Just keep doing what you are doing, and you will be great one day." All Might then says his goodbyes, and Deku is pretty happy that he not only got his notebook signed by All Might, but was also complimented by him. Deku then realizes he has to train harder than ever because he essentially got a co-signed by All Might, so he will essentially do all his training in the martial arts, and may look into some more stuff like, go to a gym, This also means the sludge villain incident won't happen because Deku never jumps onto All Might's leg, or body, which will also lead All Might into finding a new successor. And guess who it is? None other than Mirio Tokata. This will also mean that All Might and Night Eye will have a better relationship compared to the original canon, and while All Might will continue to do some of his hero duties, he will also help Night Eye train, Mirio for One for All. Though Night Eye will be doing a slight majority of the work, Anyways, Deku heads home and tells his mom about what happened. And while Inko is kind of upset he got into a bit of a situation with a villain, she's definitely happy that he got a bit of a cosign from All Might. Deku will then ask if he can apply for a gym and see if he can bulk up a bit more. Quick feint, it isn't like Deku isn't built at all, he just isn't built enough, He isn't built. Like, he's not peak human. Inko will think about it, Deku will say please, and Inko will give the okay. I mean, they have to be making a decent amount of money if Deku's head is never in the house, right? Anyways, Deku over the next 10 months will be getting pretty built. He isn't necessarily going to be as jacked as he was when he first was in a 10-month timeskip like in canon, but it will be somewhat around there because he has been trained in martial arts for a very long time. Deku will also at times have some downtime to himself, but is also looking for his teacher to see if he can find new ways to improve in his martial arts form, and also is looking for new ways to improve his quirk. A little bit into 5 months, Deku will one day be looking around on his day off, and he'll accidentally bump into a girl. The girl looks pretty attractive, and she causes Deku to blush a little bit. Deku nervously apologizes to the girl, and the girl will say no, she's sorry because she bumped into him accidentally, Deku will slowly, as he talks to the girl, will calm down a little bit, and will talk to the girl like a normal person. The girl definitely can see that Deku is pretty, well built, and is at least cute, right? They then talk a bit more, and will end up exchanging numbers with each other. When Deku asks what her name is, the girl says her name is Momoya Yorozu. Oh yes, I'm going back to this pairing. Momo will say that she is going to UA via recommendations, and Deku will definitely think the girl is pretty strong. I mean, she has to be if she's getting to UA via recommendations of all things, and doesn't even have to take the test. She will talk about her quirk, and will say it's, it's a creation quirk, where she can create anything as long as she has the limits to do so, and knows the faint's chemical compound, which impresses Deku by, a bit. Deku will then say what his quirk is, and Momo is definitely impressed by Deku, as that is definitely a useful quirk. Momo will then make a joke about wanting to fuse with him, and Deku will nervously laugh it off, and then say, you probably wouldn't want that. Momo will then be surprised and say, wait, have you fused with girls before? Deku will say, nope, and I definitely don't want to know what that is like. I haven't even fused with boys. You think I want to fuse with girls? Momo will laugh at the joke and then nervously imagines what that would be like, you know? They then both separate, but will keep touch with each other via texting. Now, Deku isn't as nervous when it comes to women, but he can still get nervous. Here I just had him get nervous at first when he saw a very attractive girl, but he got more and more comfortable with Momo as he kept talking to her. Deku will later finish the 10 months of training and will head to UA entrance exam. Deku will still meet Ochako like in canon and will have a decent but short conversation and wish her luck in the exam. However, I think he was thinking about another girl at the moment, if you know what I'm saying. Deku will do pretty decently on the entrance exam as he will get a B grade, so that's pretty good for him. Deku will see Ochako and wants to talk to her a little bit again, but is stopped by a certain guy with glasses. And he will just follow Ida's guide, okay, so I just revealed the guy with glasses, but you know, we all know who it is. Anyways, he doesn't really want to cause anything that will warrant him getting kicked out of the exam, so he'll leave it all alone. When the practical exam begins, Deku is more motivated because he wants to show up Ida, so he fuses with his medal and goes to work. He'll be able to pick up a solid 60 villain points, which is really good for him actually. He is definitely impressing Ida. And he is kind of getting mad, you know. The fact that he has a metal form and is very skilled in hand-to-hand combat definitely helps here. The 0-pointer will appear and Deku will want to run at first, but we'll see Ochako under some rubble with her ankle, you know, hurt, and we'll go help her. He smashes the rubble that is on top of Ochako and grabs a piece of the rubble, puts it in his pocket, and takes it to a safe place away from the 0-pointer. Deku then decides to take the 0-pointer's legs out so it will stop and fall, you know, and he can do that in his metal-enhanced form. However, this will cause the 0-pointer to fall forward once Deku takes out his legs, and Deku is a bit slow to react. However, Ochako with all her strength is able to push Deku out of the way and saves him from that situation. Deku will say, definitely not one of my best moments, but thank you, Ochako. And Ochako will say, no problem, Izuku, and then feels the pain in her ankle again. Deku will ask if she is okay and will volunteer to help her out, and Ochako says she can try to walk. The test is then declared over, and Ochako will later be sent to the recovery goal to look at that ankle, you know. Deku will wait for his results in a bit of a week to see if he passed. He will get a note of congratulations from All Might and says he not only got 60 villain points, but was also able to pick up 45 rescue points, naming him 105 points, the most in the test. When leaderboard is shown, Ochako actually also got 60 rescue points instead of her Kanon 45, because she definitely nearly risked her life making sure Deku of all people lived, you know. Black Girl will be third with a solid 85 villain points. Deku is pretty happy he got in. He is congratulated by his mom, and Momo also congratulates him when she gets the news from text, you know. Deku has just gone into UA. How will his journey be without One For All but having a really powerful fusion quirk? And how will Muriel handle the pressure of being the successor to All Might? Find out as the series hopefully continues. Yeehaw, soldiers! It's your boy, the Anime Sage, coming at you with another video, and this is What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk Part 2. Well, this actually did pretty well in its debut, actually. A very cool 7k views in a week in the making of this video, so let's see how Part 2 does. This should be fun. And also sorry that I couldn't get this out yesterday. I kind of had to make sure the script was great, so yeah, you know, that should be fun. Anyways, let me get into the schedule for this week. Tomorrow, you guys are going to get What If Naruto's Havachi have Senju Part 8, and on Friday, y'all are going to get What If Hashirama had the Biju, and on Saturday, you guys are going to get What If Deku had the Mjolnir Part 8, just so we can balance everything out. Let's have a great week this week. Anyways, watch me community tab like a hawk. You guys get vid updates, polls, and you know, you get to select what ifs I do for the week, and some other fun stuff in between. So watch me community tab like a hawk. Anyways, time for some quick social media plugs. Twitter is at AnimeSage4, Instagram is anime_sage4, and join my Discord server, which will be linked in the description. I'll give you all reasons to follow / join us at the end of the video, so yeah, watch until the end. Alright, now it is time for half the usual checklist. If you haven't seen part 1, the link to it will be in the description. And with all that out of the way, let's get right into the story. Alright, so we are after Deku has been accepted into UA. He will soon be essentially starting high school, which should be fun. Deku will have back and forth text conversations with Momo, and there's a bit of a bond growing there, so that's nice. Oh god, why am I tempted to do the Aram word, you know? Anyways, we cut to Mirio, who is trained with One For All. It will definitely look very strange for Mirio to suddenly have a new power out of nowhere, so Mirio will have to be very careful about who he shows his quirk to. That, or he can just justify it by saying, well, it's the next step in his quirk training, it's a quirk evolution or whatever. I'm going to go with a mix of both. Mirror is definitely coming along nicely, and All Might feels like he made a good choice, though he doesn't like how Mirror seems to lack the quick instinct to save someone without thinking about it, which Deku did have in the original canon. Those are situations in which people's lives matter, and if you don't have the instinct to save someone, it could lead to a person dying. Mirror is definitely near perfect, but he definitely lacks that instinct. All Might also thinks he could use a partner to help enhance him, get better and stuff like that, but doesn't know who. It would have to be someone he at least knows in his school, and someone he could probably trust. Back to Deku, he cannot wait for his first day at school. He goes to sleep and wakes up the next day and will say goodbye to his mom and heads to school. He'll see Momo and they'll both have, some conversations about how life is. It's been a while since they last talked in person and all this other stuff. Oh yeah, and Inko does know about Deku talking to Momo and stuff like that, and she sees what's going on, Although Deku isn't going to flat out admit it, he can necessarily disagree that he doesn't, like Momo, Anyways, they walk into class, and they see our boy Ida yelling at Bakugo. Ida goes up to Deku and apologizes to him because, he did end up figuring out the tests and stuff like that, and he ended up scoring the highest, and, he did better than him, so, yeah, he's got to apologize. Deku accepts his apology, and they'll go into a similar route with their friendship. He then sees Ochako, and she'll greet Deku, and will thank him again for saving her. Deku will be like, yeah, no problem, and also thank you for saving me, and all this other type of stuff, and Momo's kind of starting to get a bit jealous. Momo asks who Ochako is, and Deku will explain everything. Momo will be satisfied with that. She then wonders why she was kind of angry about it in the first place, almost like she was threatened by Ochako. I mean, we all know what it is, it's jealousy, but she's not going to admit it, Aizawa will then do his thing, and will eventually call everybody to a quirk apprehension test. Deku and Class 1A will be interested, they then head out, and Class 1A will be very intrigued, and then there will be the revelation of the last place finisher getting expelled. No one wants to be expelled, so here we go. First is the 50 meter dash. Deku will dash by fusing with his metal, and he will get a time of 3.6 seconds, as again, he gets boost from fusing. However, it isn't as OP versus if you were to fuse with another human. And by the way, yes, he can fuse with animals. They are organic, and he can definitely fuse with an animal, so that's there, I guess. But I'll get into animals in a bit later when the time comes, Anyways, Deku's going to have a lot better time versus the original canon because it's obvious, Everybody will have similar times with their runs, though Bakugo will have a better time by around 5 seconds. For the grip strength test, he'll be able to get a decent score with like 250, so that's fine. Next is sandbox jump, and Deku will be able to clear it, barely, but he'll clear it. In terms of the repeated side steps, Mineta will utilize his quirk, and Deku will do pretty well. Deku doesn't really like the vibes from Mineta for obvious reasons. Now, it's time for the ball throw. Ochako will get her Infinity for obvious reasons, and then Deku meanwhile will ask Aizawa if there's a baseball bat lying around. And then Aizawa will give it to him. Deku then fuses with the bat, and his arm becomes, that of a baseball bat. Deku will then throw up the ball up in the air, and will be able to hit the ball, and it will go very, very high. Deku will be able to beat Bakugo by a few meters, and Bakugo is definitely mad about that, though he won't respond like he did in the original canon, because Deku actually has a quirk in his canon now. Deku then is able to do well in the last 3 tests, which were sit-ups, long distance run, and a seated toe touch, as his fingers were not destroyed, and Deku is able to get a much better placement. Deku in his canon will get 2nd place, as Momo can create anything, so I guess it's logical that she can get 1st place, so he will be happy for Momo, but is kind of mad at the same time because he definitely won 1st. Can you guess who's getting expelled? Bye-bye, Mineta. I'll go with this because I want to put a certain girl from Class 1B into Class 1A. While Deku and everybody will kind of feel bad for Mineta, they really didn't like the way he was looking at the ladies, if you know what I'm saying. And I don't think anyone really likes the way he approaches women in general, plus he's kind of short and stuff like that, so they don't really care about him. Later on, Momo and Deku will keep talking, and we'll be able to get closer. Their relationship is getting better and better. Deku will also be friends with Ochako and Ida, and Deku is kind of in a weird position because he kind of likes Ochako a bit, but he has more feelings for Momo. It's a very weird situation for him. Deku will go home later that day and will be in a bit more of a tough spot. Deku will later be able to meet the new student of Class 1A in Itsuka Kendo. She is definitely fairly attractive, we can all admit that, and she's also a pretty nice person, Everyone in the class likes her, and Deku will have some talk with her, and they definitely have a bond starting to form because, they do have their own fighting styles, As friends, nothing more. Anyways, later on in the week, that we'll have the Battle Trial arc. All Might will come in and will call for everyone to get ready for the, battle trial. Deku will be paired up with the girl Ochako, and everybody else will be still with the same teams like Inertial Cannon. The only change coming with Kendo with Momo, because Mineta's gone. Deku and Ochako will fight Katsuki and Ida, and Momo definitely is a bit more fine with Ochako being on the same team with Deku, but she definitely would have liked to be on the same team as Deku. But wait, why? Deku and Ochako will come up with a plan like they did in Original Canon. Bakugo won't necessarily be as angry, but he still wants to fight Deku, so he wants to go with a frontal assault. Deku and Ochako enter, and Bakugo goes out to battle Deku like in canon. Deku tells Ochako to run, and then he fuses with his metal, and he'll be ready to fight Bakugo. Deku and Bakugo will begin their clash, and Deku is able to get a very clear advantage on Bakugo. Reason being is Deku knowing martial arts allows him to have a better use of close combat situations, whereas Bakugo isn't necessarily so lucky. Deku is able to knock Bakugo some feet, and Bakugo is not in a good position at the moment, and realizes he might have to resort to something else. Bakugo then decides to unleash the gauntlets, which will shock everybody. Deku will dodge it, but the blast is a very large explosion. However, it isn't as large as in the original canon because Bakugo isn't necessarily as angry at Deku, so yeah, we have to take that into consideration. Though Bakugo will still be warned, as he really shouldn't put an attack like that on a student, but that's fun, Deku will continue to find Bakugo, and Deku goes in with his custom move, Metal Smash, which is essentially a haymaker in his Metal Fusion form. Bakugo takes a hit, and he is knocked out, because, yeah, that's gotta hurt. Deku then goes and runs after Ochako. Meanwhile, Ochako and Ida are battling like original canon. Deku is rushing and is able to get there, but there isn't a lot of time. Deku is able to hit Ida, and Deku tells Ochako to run to the weapon. Ochako is able to run all the way over, and is able to grab the weapon with a couple seconds remaining. Deku and Ochako have won their battle, and Deku is not as destroyed as he was in original canon. And then he defuses. Bakugo wakes up, and is relatively fine, but he definitely has to get that head checked out, and so he goes to the nurse's office because, yeah, Deku definitely gave him a really nasty hit to the head. Deku and Uraka are praised for efforts, though they can do a bit better, but mostly Uraka, not so much with Deku because Deku did a very good job. While Bakugo definitely does have potential, but needs to control his emotions at times, and, but if he's able to somewhat control his emotions, he'll be a very good hero in the future. Ida was the best in the match, along with Deku, so they're definitely both getting somewhere as heroes, All Might has also kind of made a decision on who he wants to train with Mirio, and I think you can guess who it is. We have the other battles, such as Itsuka and Momo taking their wins over Jiro and Kaminari, and there is no Mineta sign at all. Good. Deku is pretty happy for Momo as well as Kendo, but Momo kind of gets more priority. Deku then heads to the hospital to meet Bakugo, or I guess the nurse's office if you excuse me, and see how he's doing. Deku says, "Hey, what's up, Bakugo?" Bakugo just looks at Deku with a scowl. Bakugo then says, "I lost to you, Deku." Deku looks at Bakugo and wonders where this is going. Bakugo then says, "As someone who is my rival, I lost to you. You have a very powerful fusion quirk, and I have a very powerful explosion quirk. Even with the enhancements from the gauntlets, I still lost." Deku says, "It does happen at times. This is one of the fights that I won against you, but I have been trained harder, and I can believe you did as well." Bakugo then says, "At the end of the day, I want to be number one hero, and you want to prove that you are more powerful than me and that you will surpass me. Know this, Deku. I will get stronger than ever before, and I want a rematch. So you continue getting stronger because I'm going to train harder than ever before. And if you don't keep with your training, I will surpass you. In fact, even with your training, I will make sure that I surpass you because I will train harder than ever before." Deku then says, "We'll see about that." Then Deku says goodbye and leaves the room. Deku will later go for regular classes and will keep talking with girls like Momo and Ochako. So there is a bond growing there, I guess. Deku is definitely forming more of a bond with Momo, but there are definitely some options, so maybe he has to wait a bit, got to keep those options open. Deku will be kind of a ladies' man as he is growing more confident, if I do say so myself, Man, why am I thinking of an Aram here? I don't know. Deku later in the day will be approached by All Might. All Might wants to talk to him privately, and Deku wonders what is up, but is excited with the prospect of talking to All Might. All Might will then tell Deku a couple things. First, he says he is definitely a rising hero, and is pretty strong, especially with his fusion quirk. This definitely makes Deku pretty happy. All Might also says he might have the potential to surpass him one day if he uses his quirk correctly and trains it properly. This makes Deku a lot more happy because, he's getting compliments from All Might. All Might then says, "Now, Yon Midoriya, I need to tell you something, but you cannot tell anybody this. At all. You understand?" Deku hears this and nods. All Might then decides to tell Deku everything about One For All in Mirio. Deku is pretty shocked about all the information he is being told. Deku then asks, so why are you telling me all this? All Might will say, one day Mirio might get into a fight that he may not be ready for, and while he is doing very well, he isn't perfect. I want to train your fusion quirk more, as I feel there is potential with it. Have you ever tried to fuse with more than one object or person? Deku then says, I have, but it didn't work. However, it seems I am getting better at it and I may be able to fuse with more than one object one day, but I think it might take a while. All Might then says, okay. You also seem to be very good at close combat situations with your education in martial arts. Deku grins hearing this, as again he's being complimented by All Might, puts his hand on the back of his head, it's pretty cool for him, All Might then says, I think you would be a good person to train with Mirio. You both can make each other better, you with your martial arts and combat ability, Mirio with his experience and his calculating approach, so do you want to train with Mirio and I, along with Night Eye? Deku then says, yes, I accept, as he would be kind of stupid to not take the deal. All Might and Deku then shake hands, and they'll be starting to train, well, pretty soon. Anyways, later within the week, Deku will be elected as class president. Bakugo is kind of mad right now, though again not as mad as in original canon. Deku doesn't mind this, but that doesn't mean he isn't surprised. Momo is also with him as vice president, so Deku is pretty happy about that for obvious reasons. Deku will later sit with his group, and they congratulate him and Momo on their wins as representatives. Deku being president, Momo being vice president, Deku is pretty happy and thinks he can do a very good job. Then the alarm bell rings, and Deku actually does take some leadership here. He says that everyone should be in a single file, and then they should be able to remain calm and all sort of type of stuff, like any representative should. Deku is given congratulations by my girl Momo, along with the rest of the class, and Deku's kind of embarrassed, but he has just proven that he is a worthy candidate to be a class representative. Deku will just spend the rest of the day talking to his friends, doing some of his regular classes, and other stuff in between. Deku definitely is having a very good life right now. Quick thing, he has also been training with All Might and Mirio throughout the week, and they are both getting stronger. Mirio and Deku, I mean. Night at first was hesitant, but he allowed Midoriya to grow on him, as he is definitely making Mirio better, and he also sees a lot of potential in Deku as well. Deku is definitely going to be very strong, as in above a lot of the freshmen, especially with all the training he is receiving. Deku will later say goodbye to his friends, and later has some thoughts about asking out Momo. He just doesn't really have a thorough plan of how to do it. Deku thinks he could do it after school tomorrow, and then heads home and goes to sleep. The next day, we see Deku walking to school, and Aizawa announces they are heading to USJ, which kind of excites Deku a lot because he's going to train with a pro hero besides All Might. Deku and Class 1A will be able to head to class, and Deku will talk to Momo for a bit. Deku's classes will reach USJ, and they'll meet for teen. He wonders where All Might is, but when he sees a signal from Aizawa, he realizes All Might is at his limit today. Deku will talk to Ochako and Momo, and he is in his nice purple costume, again a recolor of his original costume. And since he wasn't in that position in the first place to have his costume destroyed, here we are. And there's no meta signing at all, so that's also another positive. Deku and company enter USJ and are ready for the train ahead. However, all of a sudden, a portal opens, and out pops a group of villains that kind of look like they mean business. Deku and company are then kind of transferred to different locations, and they're in a bad position. Instead of Mineta and Tsuyu, unlike in original canon, he gets Kendo and Tsuyu, which honestly is an upgrade in my opinion. Deku and company are able to get away from the villain grunts and deal with them, and they decide to head back to the area, as they might need to help out a little bit, Meanwhile, Aizawa will have a similar fight to Canon, and will have his shoulder decayed by Shigaraki, and he ain't gonna have a fun time with that Nomu. Deku and company will reach the area, and Deku will say he'll handle the Nomu, and he tells Kendo and Tsuyu to help other people out. And while Kendo and Tsuyu are a bit hesitant, they do have a bit of faith in Deku, and Deku just says to trust him, and they hope that he'll be safe. Deku wants to crack at this Nomu and needs to buy some time for help to arrive. So he gets into his metal form and gets ready to fight. Shigaraki looks down at Deku and says, "You can't beat this Nomu. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Deku looks at Shigaraki and says, "Well, I guess I'm about to find out." And then he gets ready to face the Nomu. How will Deku do in this canon, and how strong has he gone with all the training with Mirio and All Might for the week? And of course Night Eye as well, I guess. Find out in part 3. Yeehaw, soldiers! It's your boy, the Anime Sage, coming at you for another video, and this is What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk Part 3. Well, the series is back with another part, so let's get it. Also, quick thank you to you guys for 8K. We are actually over 8K right now at like 8.25K right now, so that's huge positive for all of us, I guess. We are already 1/4 of the way to 9K, and then after that, 10K. I mean, I really want to hit 10K by the end of the year, so let's get there. Anyways, in terms of this week, you guys will get the usual in Hashira Biju Part 6 on Wednesday, and of course, Half Uchiha Half Senju Part 9, I believe, on Friday. Tuesday or Thursday, you guys should get the vid I was going to release on Saturday, but workload kind of hurt me a little bit in Mjolnir Deku Part 8, so that's a positive as well. This will be a great week. Anyways, watch my community tab like a hawk for vid updates, polls, the ability to select what ifs you want to see for the week, and some more fun stuff in between. So, yeah, watch my community tab like a hawk. Alright, time for some quick social media plugs. Twitter is at AnimeStage4, Instagram is anime_stage4, and of course, join my Discord server, which will be linked in the description. I'll give you all reasons to follow/join those at the end of the video, so watch until the end. Alright, time for the usual checklist. If you haven't seen the last part, the link to that will be in the description, and if you haven't seen the series at all, check out the playlist. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the story. Alright, so we now see Deku going up against the Nomu. Shigaraki is just mocking the boy as he believes that Deku cannot beat, well, the Nomu, the monster, you know. Deku fuses his metal with his body and gets ready for the fight ahead. Deku goes in for a kick, and the Nomu takes a hit. Deku thinks he got a direct hit, and the Nomu is kind of, damaged a little bit. The training has gone from All Might, and Mirio and Nada has done some wonders with his speed and power. Nomu then looks at Deku, and he doesn't seem to be affected by the hit. Deku then gets slammed back by Nomu, and he is taking a bit of damage. Deku kind of feels that his fusion state is barely holding up, and realizes that he cannot take another hit from Nomu. If he does, he will defuse. So Deku needs to find another way to take on the Nomu. Shigaraki then says, "Well, looks like you cannot take on the Nomu after all, even with that so-called fusion form. My Nomu is mindless, and he's also powerful. He will do my bidding, and I will use to destroy you and All Might." Deku is left in a bind right now. He doesn't know what he can do against the Nomu. Wait a minute, the Nomu is mindless? That's it! Deku can just fuse the Nomu itself because it is mindless. Alright, now it is time to get into fusions like this. So if animals or things with less than developed brains like Nomus, the form can last around 30 to 45 minutes versus the original 15 with a human form. This means Deku can fuse the Nomu for a decent amount of time. Deku though has to let the Nomu get close to him. This is also something that his training has given him, the ability to think outside the box more. Deku defuses with the metal. Shigaraki then says, "Well, it looks like you have given up. Nomu, end the boy's life, right now." The Nomu then charges right at Deku. Deku gets ready to attempt to fuse with the Nomu. Oshaku over the cliff is kind of terrified and wonders if Deku is crazy. Bakugo and company who are just riding with Tsuyu wonders what the heck Deku is doing. The Nomu gets ready to smack Deku, and then Deku ducks and then touches the Nomu. A flash of light occurs and everyone is blinded. After a light is over, Deku is in a Nomu Deku type form. He has his body, so his original Deku body, but he has his features of a Nomu. He does have purple hair at the top, though, of his exposed brain, so that's a positive. He also has his eyes, so that's also a good thing, I guess. Deku then looks at Shigaraki. Shigaraki then says, "Well, looks like it worked. I was diffused with this Nomu. You are all done, villains." Oshaku is amazed Deku came up with a plan like that, as is the rest of the class, including Bakugo. Shigaraki is just shocked. He would have never in a million years expect this kid to fuse with the Nomu. This kid is amazing, and he must be dealt with immediately. Nomu Deku goes after Shigaraki. Shigaraki needs to dodge this Nomu fused Deku. If he has the strength of that Nomu, it ain't gonna be good if Deku hits him. Shigaraki continues to dodge, and feels like he needs to do something. Deku then lands a hit on Shigaraki, sending him back rolling to the ground, and Shigaraki took a lot of damage. Deku then feels something off with the fusion, almost like he can't hold on to this form either, but why? Then All Might appears. All Might comes in and sees whatever that bird exposed brain purple haired thing is. All Might asks what is going on. Deku then answers saying he is fused with a creature that was originally this little bird brain thing, and he's now, well, fused with it and has defeated villains with it. This definitely makes All Might very interested. Deku then looks at Shigaraki and also Kurogiri, who appears and says, "You two are done." However, just when he tries to make another step, Deku feels something wrong with his body. He then goes onto his knees, and a light flashes, and Deku's defused with the Nomu. Deku is shocked that he defused with the Nomu very quickly, especially since the fusion was last for, like 30 to 45 minutes. All Might has to think about what happened. Deku was doing well before, and he had maintained that form and a lot of other forms before, so what was different about this one? Deku was thinking about this as well, and then they both realized at the same time that maybe the form was a bit unstable, or that Deku could not maintain the form as long as he thought he could. Maybe the form had too much power. And they would be correct. Remember in Dragon Ball GT, how was the fusion of Gogeta when they battled Sin Shenron? Same logic here. I did say Deku could do a fusion for over 30 to 45 minutes with something with a less developed brain, but because he had never fused with something that powerful before, nor did he have comparable powers to the Nomu, the form was kind of unstable and had too much power for his quirk to maintain. Yikes. The Nomu then goes after Deku, and then All Might swoops in and saves him. All Might tells Deku, "You did good, kid. You did good. Let me handle this." All Might then decides to fight the Nomu, like in canon, and that goes around the same. Once the Nomu is finished, Shigaraki and the rest of the league leave the area, and the heroes didn't even need to come in and stop the mess. Later on, the rest of the class are treated for any injuries and stuff they may have suffered along the way. Deku is right now kind of sad, and he just wonders if he could have done more, and he felt like he kind of failed. All Might in Small Might form comes over and sits next to Deku and talks to him for a bit. All Might says, "So, you're feeling down about today. Why? You did really well for somebody who's a freshman." "No, that's an understatement. You were excellent. You're able to turn a weapon that the League of Villains created against them, and you were able to injure their leader. I feel like that is something worth celebrating over." Deku looks up at All Might and says, "While that is all true, I couldn't maintain the form. Fusion itself was unstable because I never fused with something like that before, and while I did fight the League well, you still had to overexert yourself at the end of the day, and that might come back to bite you. And also at the end of the day, the villains got away." All Might looks down at Deku and says, "Well, all that is true. You can beat yourself up over that. You are a rising hero, but at the end of the day, you are still a student. You still have room to grow, so don't let it get to you. And at the end of the day, if I was going to go out, I would want to go out protecting my students, you, and of course Mirio. It's the way of the hero. We need to protect those who need to be protected. I'm sure you understand that very well, do you, Yomadoriya?" Deku nods. All Might then says, "Is this really your first failure?" Deku then says, "No, my first failure was me not being able to control my quirk over the first couple of years. It was very hard because I would fuse a random object or a bug without really wanting to, you know." All Might then says, "Well, what did you do with that failure?" Deku then smiles. "I allowed it to make me grow." "Thanks, All Might. I guess I felt like I had more responsibilities, especially being here at UA, and I had a lot more pressure on myself, especially since I'm a class rep." All Might then says, "Understandable. Just don't be too hard on yourself. While you do have more responsibilities, you shouldn't be too hard on yourself either, because that isn't going to help you either, especially since you have so much room to grow, you know? You're a freshman, you're a student. You need to find a nice balance between those two." Deku smiles. "I know. Thanks, All Might." Then they both shake hands. Later on for the day, Deku goes and talks to Momo. Momo tells Deku she was very impressed with how he did against those villains. Deku then says, "I mean, you must have done pretty well yourself as well." Momo then says, "I mean, I did, but I don't think I was as good as you. You fused with that thing and took on the actual villains." Deku then says, "Hey, don't sell yourself short. You made an electric-proof blanket and you fought it off some of the goons of those villains. You did well yourself. We are in our first years of UA. This shouldn't be expected. Yet here we are. I guess we're special." Momo kind of blushes and is actually impressed with Deku at this point. He isn't necessarily cocky, he's very strong, and he's cute like a cinnamon roll, but he's also very handsome. He is definitely something, alright. What is she feeling right now? Love? No, it can't be. By the way, yes, the Aram is still happening. You guys voted for that, and I'm basing it off of something called Life of a Villainess. Something my boy Mike Law showed me and that I am very interested in. Also a fanfic I read a bit as well. Not the one he sent me, but something else. And some other stuff as well. What is Life of Villainess, you ask? My advice, look up some videos about it. It's kind of interesting. And at the same time, my boy Deku has a very large thing, a 16 and 17 incher, so it's kind of necessary. Anyways, Momo wonders what is going on in Deku's mind as he is talking to him. Deku is looking at Momo and he really likes her. However, he has also been liking other girls as well in Isekai no Chako. It is really hard to look at his options, but he wonders if Momo is the best option for him. I mean, they have talked for a bit and all this other stuff, but does he really like her? And does she really like him? They are staring at each other's eyes, and all they can see in each other is something that is attracting them to each other. They come a bit closer, and closer, and closer. And then, "Midoriya, Yaoyorozu, how are my friends doing?" Their moment is interrupted by none other than Tenya Ida. Ida then says, "You both should be getting home by this point. Don't want your parents to be worried about you." Both Deku and Momo nod, and both are kinda peeved off a little bit, you know? Both ask this one question in their heads. Were we about to kiss? And the only answer they can come up with, based on how close they were to each other's faces, was a resounding yes. This definitely gives them something to think about. Deku and Momo would later head home. Alright, now it is time for the Sports Festival arc. Deku and company hear about the sports festival, and all of them are pumped up by quite a bit. However, as you can guess, nobody is more pumped than, of course, Ochako or Uraraka. Ochako seems to be more amped than usual, and Deku wonders what is going on right now. Deku, Ida, and Momo later go to Ochako and ask her what's up. Ochako then talks about her struggles growing up and how she wants to give a life for her parents. She says that her goals must be pretty horrible, as they're kind of selfish in her opinion, but there's nothing wrong with that, as Ida points out, as all she's trying to do is give her parents a better life. Deku is also amazed by Uraraka, as is Momo. Momo then asks if she can give out any money to help her family, but Uraraka wants to find her own way to get money and would feel wrong getting a handout from a friend. Momo understands this, and Deku will get to training. He trains with All Might, Mirio, and Night Eye, and is getting stronger, of course. Deku definitely wants to win, especially since Night Eye says that if he does well enough to his liking, Deku can join his agency for an internship. Deku is pretty happy about this, though he has to make sure that he does well. Later on after school, Deku and Ochako are walking with each other. It is a couple days before the sports festival and the last day of school for the week. Deku then says, "I can't wait to fight in the sports festival, it should be awesome." Ochako smiles and says, "I have confidence you will do really well, Deku." Deku says, "Same to you, Ochako." Deku and Ochako have been getting closer and closer to each other over the past couple weeks. There's just something about this that feels right. Deku and Ochako look at each other in the eyes. Deku in this space wonders if Ochako likes him. What does he do with girls like Kendo and Momo? However, those thoughts are getting stopped by what is in front of him right now. Deku and Ochako's faces get closer to each other. They inch closer, 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 and closer. Until... "Hello, my friends!" Ida once again ruins another moment. Ida says, "We're getting closer to the sports festival as it is in a couple days. Well, today is the last day of school for a week. So I wish you both good luck." Deku and Ochako wish Ida luck as well, but they are both kind of mad because, you know. As Deku and Ochako separate, Ochako runs into Momo, and Momo talks to Ochako about some things. Let's just say they have some things in common, liking Deku and of course getting blocked by Ida. They also feel that there could be another girl that Deku likes, and they think it might be Kendo since Deku and all of them hang out with her as well, so they'll wait for Kendo to be Ida blocked, and will come up with a plan to confront Deku about this, and see how he will respond. Yeah, that should be fun. Anyways, it is the day of the sports festival. Deku and company are ready for a day of trying to go up against everybody else, in hopes of trying to get some internships. Todoroki and Bakugo will still want to fight Deku, though Todoroki is more into fighting Deku because of how strong he seems, and how well he did against villains, and Bakugo for obvious reasons. Deku will be the one who delivers the speech since he scored the highest in the actual entrance exam, and he will say, "My fellow classmates of UA, I hope we can all succeed today as we work to prove ourselves to other heroes, and show them what we can do. But no matter what, try your best and lay everything out on the line. Are you ready for this, UA?" The class is cheer, and Deku congratulated for his great speech. Deku and all the other contestants get ready, everyone starts, and Deku grabs a new piece of metal in his pocket. Todoroki tries to take out the competition via his ice, however a flashlight comes out, and someone smashes the ice, as it is Deku in a titanium form. So, yeah, how do you get titanium? Well, Night kinda got it for Deku during his training, and Deku was very excited to use it during the sports festival. Deku is running right now and is able to have some good speed on him at the moment, although it's a bit difficult to catch up with Todoroki, but he's doing his best. It is right now going to be a battle between Deku, Bakugo, and Todoroki. Deku and company are able to get to the last lap of the race, like in canon, and then Deku will use the same tactics like in canon to get into first place, as in the mine thing, though this time, unlike original canon, he uses his fist to smash the mine in its titanium form, goes up and over, rolls a bit, and then speeds back up, taking lead over Bakugo and Todoroki. Deku end up winning the race like in canon, and that allows them all to move on to the next round. The every battle will still happen, and Deku will be in the same bind he was like in canon because he was first in the race. Momo will be on Sho's team like in canon as she wants to compete against Deku, kind of like I's reasoning in the original series. Let's just say Ochako will still, be with Deku, and so will Mei, and then throughout the cavalry battle, she'll wonder if she wants to either kill Mei, or if she wants to invite her into the thing. The cavalry battle will play out the same, with the same teams getting in. However, this time, Deku and his team will move up a spot, up to third, because Deku is a bit more improved, though he doesn't necessarily want to try out May's babies to fuse with because he likes his titanium. So the sports festival will be around the same up until this point in terms of matchups. Deku will fight Shinso like in canon, a student from 1B. Yeah, that's right, you heard me. Deku will be warned ahead of time, and Deku will actually heed the warning. His martial arts and training has taught him to be disciplined, so when Shinso tries to make Deku talk, Deku just smacks him out the ring in his metal form. He decided to downgrade for his match a bit, but it's still effective. Every match will remain the same in terms of result, but the difference is the aftermath. When Momo loses to Tokiyami, Deku comforts her after the match and tells her she did great, which does lift her up a bit. When Chaka loses her match, Deku does the same thing. Both girls are trying to love Deku more and more. Though at certain points, Deku is interrupted by a certain boy with glasses. Yeah, Ida. So, yeah. Deku will later be approached by Endeavor with the same stuff about maybe he can be the guy to get his son to use his fire side. Though I don't know if Deku can relate to that as much as he did in Original Canon since he was born for Quirk and still uses it. But then again, maybe he can because he finds it weird that someone isn't really using their quirk. And then will of course be approached by Todoroki, and he says he will beat Deku. Deku is ready to fight, and then of course Deku and Todoroki will meet in the arena. Deku is of course being cheered on by his friends and his potential girls. Deku and Todoroki will wait for a signal to fight, and then the fight begins. Todoroki fires off his ice while Deku fuses with his titanium, and then both will begin their match. Who will win in this battle? Unlike in the original canon, will it be Deku or Todoroki? Find out in the next part. Yeehaw, soldiers! It's your boy, the Anime Sage, coming to another video, and this is What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk Part 4. Well, this series is probably the second most popular series on my channel right now, so here's another part. Alright, first off, here's my schedule for this week. So, tomorrow will be What If Naruto Was Half Uchiha Half Senju Part 10, as we get into the final parts for that series. And then we're going to start a new series on Friday known as What If Naruto Had Haki. So that should be fun. Also, we hit 9K. Let's go. We are like 1,000 away from... we're 1,000 subs away from 10K. This is amazing. The growth has been crazy lately. Thank you guys so much. Anyways, this is going to be a really fun week. Alright, watch my community tab like a hawk. You get vid updates, polls, the ability to select what ifs you want for the week, and of course, some other fun stuff in between, so watch the community tab like a hawk. Alright, time for some quick social media plugs. Twitter is @AnimeStage4, Instagram is @anime_stage4, and join my Discord server. The link to that will be in the description. I'll give you all reasons to follow / donate at the end of the video, so watch until the end. Alright, time for your checklist. If you haven't seen the last part, the link to that will be in the description. If you haven't seen the series at all, check out the playlist. I do apologize for not getting this out to you guys yesterday, but again, I had to make sure the script was great. But anyways, with all that out of the way, let's get right into the story. Alright, so with the last part, we just kicked off the Show versus Deku fight. Deku had just fused with his titanium and smashes the ice. Quick thing. I am aware that titanium and ice don't necessarily mix, but the problem will only arises if Deku gets some ice stuck to him, so don't worry about that. And a big reason why Deku is using titanium is because it has more power to it. Anyways, Deku then grabs a bit of ice, but throughout the match, wants Show to use his quirk. However, he isn't as crazy about it as he was in Retro Canon, but, you know, he still wants him to use it. Deku already has had a quirk for a very long time, and has never really gone over the craziness of, you know, not having one. But again, he does have one principle when it comes to his martial arts training and stuff like that, and it is to always fight at your best, which Shoto is not doing at the moment. So Deku will convince Shoto to use his flames like in canon by saying, I understand where you are coming from, but your fire side is not your father's quirk, it's your quirk. It's yours to use, and how you use it is up to you. You don't have to be like your father, and using your fire side will not make you like your father. Shoto then has flashbacks. Deku then says, and besides, it would be disappointing if I didn't beat you at full strength. Shoto then uses his flames, then smiles, and then says, you're gonna regret making me use my flames. Deku smiles and gets ready for an impending attack. Shoto then unleashes a flame ice blast like in canon, and all the blast is coming at him. Meanwhile, Deku defuses with his titanium and fuses with something else. An explosion commences, and Shoto thinks he has won, but he is tired. However, when the smoke clears, Deku is still standing, but is in a different fusion form. It is stone-like, and Deku doesn't seem to have taken that much damage. Shoto then wonders what is going on. Deku then smiles and says, well, here's a new material I have fused with that I got from a certain person, and by the way, that certain person is Night Eye. You see, this is special stone that has a lot of durability and defense, though it does lack some speed. However, this is just the type of occasion I can use this form in to defend myself from attacks like that, and this form allowed me to take the full force of it. The match is going to continue, and then Deku then diffuses and says, I think it's now time to display a more powerful fusion combination. Deku then reaches for Shoto's ice and grabs his medal as well. Deku then says, "You see, I have not only been working on new materials to fuse with, but also the amount of materials I fuse with. Let me show you. Dual fusion!" Deku then fuses with the objects and a flash of light occurs. He now is fused with Shoto's ice and his metal, which has created a dual fusion type form. His body's all metal but his hands are ice. Shoto is amazed. Deku though knows he can only hold this form for a limited amount of time, 2 minutes to be more exact. Deku fires off some ice and Shoto has to dodge. Shoto uses his ice and then Shoto will melt some of the ice with his flames. Deku then pops out of nowhere and punches Shoto in the face. The punch sends Shoto flying and then Deku fires off some ice just to make sure Shoto gets out of the rain. Shoto is out and Deku wins and moves on to the next round. Momo and Ochako are amazed by Deku. Deku was able to beat Shoto, and while he definitely was a favorite to win, when he got that blast it felt over. But when Deku turned around like that, it gave him a new respect for Deku. Kendo was watching this as well and is amazed at what she saw. She had gotten eliminated earlier before anyone else, but she stuck around to watch Deku. And she was as amazed as everyone else was. Deku will defuse, and Shoto, who took the full front of the attack, is, waking up a little bit. Deku goes up to Shoto and shakes his hand, and then Shoto is taken away to give him a bit of a checkup for injuries and stuff like that. Endeavor, who had watched the whole thing, is impressed with Deku and is glad Shoto used his Fireside, but he is still a bit frustrated because Shoto lost. Deku would later learn his next matchup is against Ida. Deku would start getting ready and sees Kendo over, in the hallway and stuff like that. Deku then goes up and talks to Kendo, and, they can start a conversation. Kendo does wish she could have been there in a tournament, but she does admire Deku for his abilities and thinks he is incredible. Deku says that she's incredible as well, and she'll be an awesome hero one day. Kendo, kind of blushes a bit at hearing those words. The atmosphere is very familiar, as it seems as if it's the same atmosphere as when Deku was with Momo and Ochako before, Deku and Kendo look at each other in the eyes, and Deku is awestruck by Kendo's beauty. And I mean, who wouldn't? And Kendo is amazed at Deku's cute but also handsome face. The two seem to be unconsciously inching their faces closer together and are about to kiss. They inch closer, and closer, and closer, until... Midoriya, our match starts soon. This snaps Deku out of his trance, and Deku has to race, as he won't want to be disqualified. Kendo is just sitting there, kind of mad that she got blocked by Ida. Then, out of nowhere, Momo and Ochako drag her, and decide to talk to each other about their plan. They all now can relate to one thing. They all like Deku, and they have all been blocked by Ida. Kendo then says, "An Aram type of relationship?" Yes, I'm still censoring myself. Momo and Ochako nod. Ochako says, "You see, we can all relate to one thing, and that is that we all like Deku. We also have been in situations where we have almost kissed Deku, and we have had those moments rudely interrupted. We all have this love for Deku, and it would be a bit unfair for him to choose between one of us when Japanese laws, kind of allow this type of stuff to happen. So let's all get what we want, and we can have Deku to ourselves." Kendo thinks about it and decides to agree, and all of them put their hands in the middle and break. Kendo then asks how are they going to tell him all this. Momo and Ochako then whispered her, and then they all have this evil look on their faces. Back to the tournament, Deku and Ida face off. Deku fuses with his titanium again, and Ida at first will have the advantage because of his, turbo jet. And then Deku will use his ice that he got from Todoroki and fuse with it in another dual fusion form. Deku then stops Ida with the ice, and then Deku punches him out of the ring, and Deku advances to the finals. Ida is sad that he lost, but Deku says Ida did very well and that they should fight again. Ida is happy for his friend and hopes Deku can win the whole festival. Deku says he will, and Deku waits for who he faces in the finals. Momo, Ochako, and Kendo are happy for Deku and cannot wait to put their plan together after the festival. Deku then sees he will face Bakugo in the finals. Bakugo looks at Deku, and Deku looks at Bakugo, and exchange a stare only rivals can make with each other. Before the match, Deku and Bakugo have a bit of an exchange, Deku says, "Looks like we will be battling for first place. Know this, Bakugo. I will give you the fight of your life, as I am not going to hold back." Bakugo then says, "Neither will I, and I will beat you and make up for my loss to you in a battle simulation." Deku then says, "We'll see about that." Deku and Bakugo will then go to the ring, and him and Bakugo will continue to stare at each other. The entire crowd wants to put their bets on who will win. Deku has been incredible this entire tournament, and has shown not only great resilience this entire tournament, but also powerful strength as well as his fusion quirk. However, Bakugo has also been very impressive, and Deku has also used a lot of power, so he could have, less stamina for this fight. And they are right away, as Deku is a bit winded. The fight begins, and everybody is watching. Deku fuses with his titanium, and Bakugo will fire off his explosions. Deku will throw his own punches, but Bakugo wants to make sure he at least somewhat keeps his distance so he doesn't get obliterated in close combat. Even with his improvements, he still has no chance against Deku when it comes to close combat for obvious reasons, martial arts, you know. Bakugo will fire off explosions, but Deku will keep dodging. Deku and Bakugo seem to be about even. Deku though is starting to get a bit more winded. Bakugo then smiles. Oh, so all that fighting you did and those dual fusions you did are starting to catch up to you, huh? Even though I fought in the same amount of matches, I used less energy. You, however, had to use more energy in your matches, especially those dual fusions. And that is the weakness of your quirk. Those fusions will always take up stamina, but the type of fusion you have been doing this entire tournament has used up the most stamina you have ever spent in your life. That is why I will win, as all I have to do is wait until he collapses from exhaustion. Deku grits his teeth, but then smiles and says, "You're right, all you have to do is wait. But you wouldn't do that, wouldn't you? That would be too cheap for you. You want to beat me in any way possible without any excuses." Bakugo then smiles and says, "You're correct. So how about I end this?" Bakugo then unveils a move that Deku hasn't seen before. Bakugo then uses explosion to spin around, and Bakugo then says, "Howitzer Impact!" Deku, before the impact, fuses and fuses again, and you can guess what he fused with. An explosion occurs, and Bakugo feels that he has finally won. However, from the smoke, Deku in his stone form holds onto the ground for dear life, but is still okay. Bakugo is mad and says in his head, "Dang it, he fused again with that stone, just like he did with Icy Hot." Deku then looks to Bakugo and says, "Looks like that move cost you a bit of your own stamina. I for one may be winded, but I won't lose here." He then diffuses with the stone. Deku smiles and says, "I think you know what is coming next." Bakugo then says, "Brain it!" Deku then dual fuses one more time, and Deku's in his titanium ice form. Deku then speeds away on his ice, and Bakugo uses explosions, though that last attack kind of took a little bit out of him. Deku fires off some ice, and Bakugo will continue to dodge, and then Bakugo will fire off some explosions, and Deku will continue to dodge that. Both fighters want to win this. They're hungry, and will do everything they can to win. Deku will fire off some ice until Bakugo carelessly catches himself in, Deku's ice. Bakugo will blow it past him, and then will get a punch to the face. Deku now has Bakugo where he wants him, and fires some ice, and will push Bakugo out of the stadium. Bakugo, as he's flying, sees himself losing, and he's witnessing defeat, and that really makes him angry. He doesn't want to lose, not like this. Bakugo then fires off some explosions and saves himself from a rain out. The crowd goes wild, as this is the best match by far. Deku says, "I should have known you wouldn't lose that easily. You always had that fighting spirit. Though right now, you're in the same position I am in." Bakugo then smiles and says, "Well, you are right. How about we really end this?" Deku nods. Both go for one final strike. Bakugo raises an explosion, but Deku catches one of his hands in ice, and before Bakugo can blast it off, Deku will kick him up, and then Deku will use the ice to boost him up, and then fires off some ice down onto Bakugo, which will put Bakugo down on the ground. Bakugo is down at the moment, but doesn't want to give up, and gets the ice off of him by, blowing up, but then Deku punches him in the face, and then Bakugo is then down. Bakugo is down on the stadium ground, but he doesn't want to give up, and gets the ice off of him, but then Deku punches him in the face. Bakugo is down again. Deku is right now exhausted and only has 30 seconds left in his form. Bakugo is slowly getting up, but then Deku fires off some ice, and this time, Bakugo is out of the ring and is knocked out. Deku has just won a sports festival. The crowd cheers. Momo, Ochako, and Kendo are so happy for him. They all come to the same conclusion that Deku is really amazing. Bakugo is then taken away, and Deku then goes down on all fours and then collapses, but is taken care of by midnight, and he's taken to, a room to rest. Deku will wake up and hears that he was out for a little bit as he used up a lot of energy. Deku then sees Ochako, Momo, and Kendo coming into his room, and they're all happy for him that he won and that he's also okay. Deku wonders how Bakugo is doing, and he is told that he's fine as well, and Deku's happy about that. Ochako then says tonight after the ceremony and everything, they all want to meet up so they can talk with Deku, and Deku says sure, and the girls will leave with some smirks on their faces. Later on, the ceremony will commence, and All Might will present, the medals. Bakugo is relatively calm and isn't angry like he was in canon, and the reason for that is he may have lost, but he did try his best. He is angry in general that he did lose, but isn't a situation like in canon, which might actually play a part later. Togami is given his medal for his performance, which is third place. Bakugo was given his second place medal, which he just looks down at, and then All Might gives Deku his first place medal. Deku was really happy, and Baku was just looking at him, and Deku knows Baku will probably talk to him later, but who knows, it could be either, good or bad. Baku then approaches Deku as he is walking. Baku then says, "It looks like you won a sports festival, and beat me to get that first place medal." Deku nods and says, "You did really well yourself. I mean, I almost felt like at certain points during the match that I was going to lose. You truly are a worthy rival." Baku then says, "You may say that, but I still lost to you, and I know that I need to improve myself. However, I did feel close to you during that match, and I will improve myself so I can beat you. And then I will show you that I'm better than you and will become the #1 hero." Deku then says, "You do that. I'll just do what I can to maintain this gap between us, and I will aim for a top spot myself." Deku then, go into an "oh yeah, yeah," and then both of them wish each other luck, and then shake hands. Later on during the night, Deku will meet his girls, and he sees all of them, are there. They showed up, Momo will then say, "So you showed up. Welcome, Izuku." Ochaku at this point is making sure Ida is not around. Deku then says, "So, what is this about?" Momo then says, "Well, I was told by these girls that you have been in near-kiss experiences with them." Deku then kinda blushes a bit, and he's shocked that he's being confronted about all this. Kanto then says, "So we want you to answer this question. Who do you want to choose as your girlfriend?" Deku's just flabbergasted when he hears that. Ochaku then says, "The truth is, we all love you, Deku, but you can only choose one of us, so who are you gonna pick?" Deku then looks at all of their serious faces, and right now he is torn. He loves all of the girls and doesn't want to choose between any of them. After much thought, he feels like he cannot come to a decision as he loves all the girls too much. Deku then says, "I cannot make this decision." The girls then are internally, grinning, but then they keep their serious faces on and say, "Why not?" Deku then says, "It's because I love you all equally, and I cannot choose between any of you. It's way too much for me. I cannot bear breaking any of your hearts." The girls then grin, and then Momo says, "Well, you don't have to choose between any of us, because we would all love to be your girlfriend, which is why you can date all of us." Deku is just kind of shocked by all this. Deku then says, "Kind of like my own harem." The girls all nod, and Deku then remembers the laws about Japan, as having multiple wives is legal, though there's a max of 5, and usually isn't encouraged, but is allowed. So Deku doesn't see anything morally wrong here, and agrees to it, and kisses all his new girlfriends. Deku then says goodbye, and all of them go their separate ways. Deku will later get his internship with Sir Night-Eye, as that was the deal. He walks into Night-Eye's agency, and he is glad to see him along with Mirio. Deku is also introduced to Bubble Girl, and, that's, going pretty well. Deku then goes for next week training with Mirio, which, Mirio's getting stronger, Deku's getting stronger, it's getting pretty good. He also gets a couple new materials from Night-Eye, which we'll get to later. He will also over the week spend some time playing dates with his girls, but will keep it on the low as he doesn't want, to 1, get embarrassed, or 2, ridiculed. So him and the girls will plan some dates in, private, and they'll go relatively well. Deku is pretty happy right now, and his life is going pretty well for him. He'll also, pick a hero name during this week, which I will let you guys determine on a poll after this video releases. I got a couple names that I really do like, so yeah, I'll let you guys vote on what Deku's new hero name will be, because I think he needs a new hero name for this scenario, but I'll still call him Deku just, for narration purposes, while all this was happening, Ida had learned that his brother was in a hospital and was attacked by a certain person named Stain, which might have been a reason why he never interrupted the moment between Deku and his girls this time. Deku has noticed this and feels sorry for Ida, but he's also worried something could happen, as he's concerned about where he chose to take his internship and some other stuff with Ida at the moment. He's been acting a little bit, not himself. In the next part, we'll go over to host a city attack, and this will be a bit of a different scenario, and the battle that could happen is going to be a bit different. And how it all go? Find out in the next part. Yeehaw, soldiers! It's your boy, the Anime Sage, coming at you with another video, and this is What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk Part 5. Well, this should be another good part to the most popular MMT What If I've ever, made on the channel, And I am glad to deliver you guys another part, so let's get it. Anyways, time for a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Beautiful Halo. If you want some nice looking anime and meme apparel or clothing, essentially, this is the site for you. You can also use code MEME for 5% off of orders of $49+, and code MEMES. You hear that difference, right? Meme and memes. This is code MEMES for 10% off of orders of $99+. Also, you buying some stuff there also supports me, so go check out Beautiful Halo. Their links will be in the description. And in terms of this week, you guys will be getting What If Naruto Had Hockey Part 2 on Wednesday, and what if Naruto's Habichi has sent you part 11 on Friday. So that should be fun. Anyways, watch my community tab like a hawk as you guys get vid updates, polls, the ability to select what ifs you want for the week, and some more fun stuff in between, so watch my community tab like a hawk. Time for some quick social media plugs. Twitter is at AnimeStage4, Instagram is anime_stage4, and join my Discord. The link to that will be in the description. I will give you a reason to follow/join us at the end of the video, so watch until the end. Alright, time for your checklist. If you haven't seen the last part, the link to that will be in the description. And if you haven't seen the series at all, check out the playlist. With all out of the way, let's get right into the story. Alright, time to get into the Hostess City attack. So, for the last week, Deku had been training with Mirio and Night for the entire week, and throughout that week, Deku had also been very worried about Ida because Ingenium getting essentially, you know, paralyzed and stuff like that, no longer becoming a hero. Yeah, that wasn't fun. Deku, however, during that week, as well, was also, you know, he met Gran Torino, who wanted to help out and train Mirio. So there was that meeting, all that other fun stuff. So Deku still has a relationship with Gran Torino, and Mirio has been a relationship with Gran Torino forming as well. Anyways, one night, Deku and Nai and Mirio take the train, also along with Gran Torino, and of course, we encounter something called, you know, a Nomu. Gran Torino will handle the Nomu, and Deku will go out as he sees the Hostess City under attack, and is kind of worried about Ida. Nai will ask Mirio to follow Deku, and Mirio does so. Meanwhile, Stain is in the middle of destroying Ida, as Ida in this case still wants to take revenge against Stain for essentially, you know, destroying his brother's hero career. Stain is ready to deal a final blow with his sword and says, "See ya, you shall be an offering to a just world." Then, out of nowhere, Deku comes in his titanium form and smacks Stain in the face. Mirio comes in as well and gives Deku a thumbs up for a good job. Ida looks to Deku and says, "Midoriya." Deku will then say he came to save him, and the battle begins. Stain recognizes Deku from the pictures of Shigaraki, and Stain does see Mirio as well, but he's not going to back down from either of those two. Mirio, looking at Ida, asks if he can, you know, move, and Ida says he cannot, as Stain's quirk is, well, you know. Ida does have faith in Deku, as he is strong, and with his titanium he should be fine, but this has nothing to do with him, and is worried about him. What if he is too much for him, you know? What if Stain really, you know, beats Deku? Mirio will hang back and, you know, keep watch over Ida, and will let Deku go to work, as Deku does have, you know, the least amount of risk of getting cut. Deku and Stain will go at each other, and Deku has the advantage. Deku will end up disarming Stain at first, and will smack him out of the way, and then Stain will go back, you know, go grab his swords, and then Deku will just smack him again. Mirio then comes in, and Stain will get smacked by Mirio. Mirio then says, "It wouldn't be fun if you did all the work." Deku then smiles, and both of them, you know, handle Stain pretty well. Deku then will encourage Ida to try and be the hero he wants to be, and he will take Ida out of his funk, and that will allow Ida to break out of his little situation. Deku then wants to help Ida out in a way to, you know, help take him down, so he's going to do something that he has done in a while, and that's essentially fusion with another person. Deku will then fuse with Ida and his titanium in a dual fusion type twist, and this fusion will essentially only last 1 minute because fusion between an object and a human uses more power in terms of dual fusion. The now fused Dita, or in terms of hero names, Eugenium. By the way, Deku's new hero name is called Unity for purposes of sticking to the fusion theme, but if you hear me call him Deku still, it's for narration purposes. Eugenium will finish Stain off with a high-speed Recipro Titanium Smash, and will ultimately smack Stain and knock him out. Stain is essentially, well, in their minds, finished. Deku and Ida defuse, and Ida is back injured again. Alright, now you guys probably want to know how this works, so let me explain it like this. Two non-injured persons will equal a non-injured body, and when there's fusion between two non-injured people fuse, it creates a whole new body that no longer has those injuries. It's because of the concept that two negatives equal a positive. In the case of fusion between a non-injured versus with a injured person, because it is a whole new body, so the actual body will not have, you know, the injuries. It will be just a completely new body. However, if those people, you know, diffuse, then the injuries will stay the same on that person. So yeah, Deku will meet up back with Gran Torino and will be scolded as he will apologize for his carelessness and his anger. Deku will then be swiped up by the Nomu, still like in canon because, you know, that came out of nowhere, but will be saved by Stain, and all that talk of phonies and pretenders will start again, and then Stain will be arrested like in canon. And everybody's pretty happy and as it will all worked out in the end. Deku will visit Ida in the hospital, and Ida will go on about his arm injury like in canon. Ida also wants to continue to not only be a hero like his brother, but also a hero like our boy Deku. Deku will smile and both will fist pump. As you guys can guess, due to Aang's impact, the League of Villains will be getting some new members, so that stays the same. Ida will later talk to Deku and ask if that was the first time he fused with another person, and Deku then reveals that he kinda did earlier in his elementary to middle school life, which means he lied to Momo and his girls, but it was for a good reason, as he accidentally fused with a girl, which was very uncomfortable for him, and he never really wants to talk about that type of stuff anymore. He wants to know, the full details about it, but Deku says it was just a very simple experience. He accidentally fused with a girl and remembers it being the most uncomfortable experience of his life. Very simple and definitely not something he wants to do again. He lied to Momo because he really, again, does not want to talk about that experience. Later on in the week, Deku's internship with Naida is over, and Naida will hope he can come over again, and Deku will be like, yep, I wouldn't mind that. Right now, Deku and Naida's relationship has been growing, and it is definitely going to be interesting to see how much it grows in the future. Deku will see Bakugo in his new haircut from Best Jonas, and will try to hold himself from laughing out loud. Bakugo will then be like, you can make fun of me now, but I've gotten so much stronger, Deku. Deku then says, I'm sure you did. It would be a waste of time if you got that haircut and spent all that time interning under Best Jonas and you didn't get any better. So just know this, I've gotten stronger as well. Bakugo then says, oh yeah? I would like to see how strong you are at this point. Deku will smirk and say, you try to fight me and I will wash you. Bakugo will then say, oh yeah? And lightning sparks will come between the two, and then both of them smile. Deku will say, that fight will come. Bakugo will then say, yeah, and I cannot wait for that opportunity. As you can see, I kind of have a bit of a rival / friendship type of relationship brewing between these two, so that should be fun. In terms of that race, Deku will just ask for some ice from Todoroki, and he'll give it to him. Deku will then just ice over the field, and does pretty well, and there isn't really much room for Deku to change as much. He was already pretty strong, and he was already, pretty powerful with his fusion type quirk. So he has definitely gotten stronger, but it's definitely not necessarily like a noticeable difference like it was when he came back with full Cowling. Deku does bring the attention of his girls, and they definitely know he's gotten stronger, and, that's definitely fine with them, The whole Mineta thing, peeping in that locker room situation doesn't happen because, Mineta isn't here, so, yeah. And even if he was here, Deku would probably beat the absolute crap out of him because since he already is in a relationship with all those girls, he kind of has an investment to care, Deku will then be told about All For One, and Deku will take that in and be like, alright, I'm fine with it, and believes in Miru and himself that they can take down, whoever All For One is at the end of the day, or his next, successor. Now we get into the final exam. Deku, I think, for the midterms will get first place on the actual midterm over Baku, which is another field for their rivalry. I can't say first or second because Ida and Momo are Ida and Momo, and Momo has something to tease Deku over, which, kind of helps out their relationship a little bit, has those playful tendencies. Deku has also been, having more dates with his girls, and there's a bit of a debate of whether or not they make this public or when they make it public. On one hand, people might be able to understand and will be fine with it. In fact, some might see Deku as a bit of a Chad, quote unquote. On the other hand, it might also lead to tease and stuff like that. Who knows? And on the other hand, it could also lead to more embarrassment and stuff like that. So, yeah. So there is that debate going on because eventually this stuff is going to come out, and they do want to at least, make it on their terms, but at the same time, they're kind of hesitant on, putting it out there because it's kind of not necessarily normal, but it is, legal and not necessarily wrong, So anyways, before the final exams, Deku and Baku will have their little encounter, and Baku will make a similar declaration like in canon. However, it is less angry, more so, I'm going to destroy you in a competition type of way. A bit calmer, not necessarily as arrogant and as angry as in the original canon. On the day of the actual, final exams, Deku and Baku will be paired up like in canon, which will not be as bad for them, though they might still have some of those lackluster teamwork issues like in canon, but they'll be able to get over it. Deku during his fight will fuse with Titanium, of course, and Baku and him will have to come to an agreement eventually that they have to team up against, All Might. Baku and Deku will be able to use the gauntlets, and All Might will get hit with it, and the only thing that these two need to worry about is to run to the gate and get out of there. All Might will continue to smack both of them because he is All Might, and while Deku can hold up his Titanium form, that is because All Might's holding back, and even then Deku is barely holding up. Deku will then do another dual fusion and will freeze All Might and will punch All Might in the face and drag Bakugo out of there, and he and Bakugo will pass the test. Everybody else's tests will go the same, but for Momo, her issues aren't as prevalent like they were in canon because Deku kind of helped her out with that, so that's a positive there, I guess. With Itsuka being with Sero instead of Mina, I think we'll see them pass, which is pretty good, and we'll have the same crop of students who failed miserably. Oh, also, Chak will not be flustered about Aoyama asking her if she likes Deku because, you know, everybody will go to the mall and Deku will be alone with his girls, and Deku will want to see what he can get alone, and he'll let them do what they want. And honestly, I don't think he wants to shop with his girls. For those of you guys who have gone for that experience, I feel for you guys. I can relate. I have been through the same stuff. I have suffered the same pain you guys have gone through. We get through the pain of the shopping, and I can fully understand it. We have to try to avoid it at all costs, and if we have to go through it, we must survive. Okay, I gotta stop myself before I go for a whole speech. However, this leads Deku to encounter Shigaraki like in canon, and in this version, while Deku is kind of scared because of Shigaraki, he's able to keep himself very calm and collected. Deku also confused because he tries to reach in his pockets. Most likely Shigaraki will kill him. Shigaraki will go on and talk about how he can kill 20 or 30 people before he is captured. Deku just looks at him with a bit of anger, but knows he cannot really do anything about it because he is at this point immobilized. Shigaraki will ask him what is the difference between him and Stain, and Deku will go with a similar explanation to canon, which awakens Shigaraki's hatred for All Might. Shigaraki will then comment his fusion with Nomu and talks about his inkling to kill him because he can take his Nomu and use them against him, but in his mind knows it's not the time, as he has some stuff to look forward to. Momo will actually end up checking up on Deku from a nearby area, and we'll see something is up as she will go up to Shigaraki. Shigaraki will be able to escape like in canon, and Deku's glad it's all over. He now wants to defeat Shigaraki and eventually stop him for good. The police will come and look for Shigaraki, but to no avail. Ink will go up to her son and will be happy her son is alright, and Deku says he's fine. The school trip will begin, and Deku will meet the wild pussycats. Am I allowed to say that? I can? Alright. Deku and Urchin Company will be able to reach there first, the area, and Koto will try to punch Deku in that area, but Deku will stop him with his instinctual block that he has from martial arts. The entire hospital incident won't happen, so Deku won't have to, ask Koda about, his past for that little method, but we'll learn by his past eventually from Mandalay. So Deku was like, well, that will definitely make someone very angry, and it's understandable that this is me talking, because if you were young and you heard about your parents, dying a tragic death on a job, you might feel comfortable about that job, and again, the lack of development a child, has at that point, they're not going to be able to understand why they had to die and why it's being celebrated, which isn't fun. Meanwhile, with Deku, he is getting stronger for his quirk and is trying to fuse with, more objects or people at once, so essentially a triple fusion. Deku was trying to work on it and trying his best, but he's not there yet. Deku will still try to get into the head of Koda and will still offer him some food. Koda will talk about how all heroes are idiots and all that other stuff. Deku will then say, I was not given the quirks of my parents. In fact, I was given a rare genetic mutation that was very different from my parents' quirk, in this fusion quirk. I can fuse with essentially any person or object I want. I've also trained for years working on my quirk and trained martial arts, which is how I blocked that punch when you tried to hit me in the jewels. I do understand why you feel the way you do, as if I lost my parents at a young age, I would feel very distraught, as I love both of them, even if my dad is never here. Koda then looks at Deku and asks, wait, your dad is never with you? Why is that? Deku then says, work reasons, that's all. I don't like that I barely know my dad, but I understand what he's doing for the family. He wants to make sure that we survive and live, and while it does at times hurt that, again, he's never there, I will always love and respect him. Kodo looks at Deku and is kind of having a bit of respect for him. Deku will continue to say, it is because he is my dad and wants to provide for us that I will continue to love and respect for him. Now, I do have to ask you this. Do you hate the concept of heroes and quirks in general, or is there more to it than that? Kodo then says, I hate to hear society with quirks. I hate how it works. I hate that it led to the death of my parents, and I hate how I watch you idiots keep training with your quirks when it won't even matter. Deku then looks at Kodo and asks, is that how you really feel? Kodo nods his head. Deku then says, let me teach you a bit of advice that I got from my sensei. He told me that there will be times death and anguish, even for heroes. It at times will be something that is hard to process as reality at the end of the day. But when you learn to protect someone and look to have the feeling of why people do this, you will understand. The reason for society like this is so people can be protected, and we have people to look after the city, because without them, society would collapse, especially if All Might retired. Death is definitely hard to deal with, and you're justified in having those feelings. However, I encourage you to look at the other side of the coin with heroes, on why people become heroes and why people train to become heroes. And ironically, this was my sensei's response to the death of your parents. Koda's eyes widen. Deku then says, I'm worried that you will always have those YEEHAW soldiers. It's your boy, the Anime Sage, coming at you with another video, and this is What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk Part 6. Time for another part of the series, so this should be good. Sorry I didn't get this out to you guys yesterday, but writer's block, but we're here. Anyways, time for a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Beautiful Halo. If you want some nice looking anime and meme apparel or clothing, this is a site for you. You can also use code MEME. I repeat, code MEME for 5% off of ORAS, so $49+, and code MEMES. I repeat, code MEMES for 10% off of ORAS of $99+. Also, you buying some stuff there also supports me, so go check out Beautiful Halo. Their links will be in the description. Anyways, in terms of this week, you guys are getting What If Naruto's Have sent you on Wednesday, which will be the finale, and on Friday you guys are going to get What If Naruto Had Haki Part 3. So that should be fun. Also, you guys are potentially going to see some One Piece reviews like the one you saw yesterday, so yeah, that's going to be fun. Watch me tab like a hawk as you guys get polls, vid updates, the ability to select what FC one for the week, and of course some more fun stuff in between. So again, watch me tab like a hawk. Alright, time for some quick social media plugs. Twitter is at AnimeStage4, Instagram is anime_stage4, and of course, join my Discord server. I'll give you all reasons to follow/join us at the end of the video, so watch until the end. Alright, time for user checklists. If you haven't seen the last part, the link to that will be in the description, and if you haven't seen this series at all, check out the playlist. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the story. Alright, we're now getting further into Season 3, so let's get into this. So we have a bit of a change in this arc here, as there's a new motive for League of Villains in this arc, since Baku did not have his little issues during the sports festival. Instead, the League will want to go after Deku this time, as he is a big threat, and what makes Shigaraki want to join is the fact that if he's able to get Deku on his side, he would have a guy that could have nimble powers and will be able to smack down the heroes with his prowess in close combat. If they can't do that, then they can go to alternatives. The first is to use him as bait for All Might, as him and All Might do seem to have a bit of a close relationship, which could set up a final battle between All For One and All Might, where All Might finally loses, or they just kill Deku, as he is a massive threat to their plans. If he can fuse with mindless Nomus and get all their quirks and use them against them, well, that's going to make things extremely difficult to say the least. So they're going to go after Deku no matter how you slice it up, Anyways, that will begin as we see Toga make her appearance and does her thing. Bakugo will do what he can against the villains. Meanwhile, Deku will try to protect Koda like in canon. However, there's a bit of a difference here for Muscular. Muscular wants to grab Deku and kidnap him, because again, that is the mission for this new arc. So Muscular will give Deku an offer. Muscular will say, "Listen, kid, I wanted to finish the job from so long ago with the kid you are trying to protect when I killed his parents. However, I will give an exception here, since the mission is to capture you." Now, when you think about it, Muscular might be the best guy to go up against Deku, because with his titanium fusion, Toga can't really use her quirk. Dabi might be another good matchup, but he's doing his thing, twice, maybe, but I feel like the best one would be Muscular here as the best guy for the job. So yeah. Anyways, right now, Muscular's trying to convince Deku to come to the League, and Deku right now has a bit of a decision, as this guy's quirk is kind of crazy, and he doesn't know if he can beat him in his titanium form, nor his dual fusion forms, but he also doesn't want to endanger Koda either. But there's also the problem of what if Muscular lies and ends up killing Koda anyway. There is a bit of a factor difference here, and it is also likely that if he goes with them, he will be killed, and he obviously doesn't want to die. He's got an arm and everything, Plus, he also has friends, All Might, his mom, so yeah, dying out is kind of out of the question. Deku then thinks maybe to get one of those muscle strands Muscular, has with his muscle augmentation quirk. Then he can, make a bit of a more even playing field, because, well, if he fuses with that strand, he can potentially get muscle augmentation, which, combined with his titanium form, is going to be pretty deadly. So again, the only thing Deku has to worry about is to grab one of those muscle strands, which should be easy. Well, easier said than done, Yikes. Deku will then fight Muscular as he fuses with titanium, and he goes into, well, battling Muscular. He's not trying to get hit by Muscular, and with his martial arts training over the years, and of course his training up until now with guys like Night Eye, All Might, and of course Mirio, he's also getting the boost from his titanium form, so he's pretty fast in a way. Deku is avoiding each of Muscular's punches, and then he says, "You can't keep dodging me forever. You can make this so much easier just by coming with me." Deku then knows he needs to grab one of those muscle strands immediately, as he cannot afford to keep wasting stamina. Deku will keep dodging but cannot get close until, he does and gets on top of Muscular. Muscular then decides to slam up against the rock wall a couple times so he can get off of him. And Deku is going to hold on tight. Deku is taking some damage, though it is good to Titanium and provide some form of defense, and he's in that form because if he was in his human form, well, let's just say he would feel a lot more pain of getting, slammed into a rock wall multiple times. Deku keeps tugging at the strand as he needs, that one strand. All the while, Koda is telling him to stop, and then Koda decides to fire some water at Muscular. Muscular says, "I'll get to you later, kid, right after I deal with him." Deku then has an opening and is able to tear the strand off, which causes Muscular screaming pain, and then he tries to smack Deku on the back, but Deku is able to jump off and land on his 2 feet. Deku then defuses, and then Deku says, "Let me show you a dual fusion using your own quirk." Deku then, in a flash of light, will, fuse with the strand and the Titanium, and we have a muscle-augmented Titanium Deku. Deku then looks Muscular and is like, "You are dead." Now in this form, Deku will actually have an extension in fusion time by around 30 seconds in terms of dual fusion, since he's been trained with his quirk. So in total, Deku should be able to last for around 2 minutes and 30 seconds when it comes to his dual fusion forms. Muscular is kind of terrified because he's facing someone with his own quirk that is, probably also fused with some Titanium, so he's in a bit of a bad situation. Deku and Muscular go into combat, and in their forms, they both launch their own punches. Koda's just, sitting back, watching, trying to hope that Deku wins. He's rooting for him because, he wants to live. And, yeah, Deku's punch will be more powerful, and Muscular will stumble back, and then Deku will smack Muscular with a left hook. Muscular will be launched against a rock, and he's taking some bad damage. Muscular, who is kind of dazed and feels him getting punched in the stomach, which, yikes, that has got to hurt. Deku does have to be kind of aggressive here, as he again has 2 minutes and 30 seconds, but again, he has no anime logic, as that amount of time is 24 hours in the real world. Muscular goes up to his limits with his quirk because he's not going to lose this kid, and Deku decides to match it. Muscular charges at him, and Deku will just finish him with a right hook, and that's a nail in the coffin for Muscular, as Deku is able to finish him off, and he's not going to wake up for a long time. Koda has his character development moment, as Deku still protects him like he did in the original story, and he did also use the same quirk that killed his parents against, Muscular, so that's a pretty cool moment for him, and he won't have time to thank him, but, Deku did save him in a precarious situation, so, yeah. Deku will take Koda with him, and the good news for him is that he isn't as banged up as he was in the original canon, so he can at least somewhat fight some more, but his stamina has been drained a little bit, and he did take some damage from Muscular, so it's not like he's at full strength at the moment. Characters like Mag and Spinner, by the way, will, want to make sure their target is captured, and Spinner will want to take on, the League of Villains side because Deku did show himself as worthy disdain, so Spinner would be interested in bringing Deku to the League since he can help make Saint's dreams come true, in a way. And Deku, though, kind of needs to be protected as he is the target of the League of Villains, so Shoji and Tokoyami will try to make sure Deku is, safe, and that means that he will have to be more so protected, so yeah. And by the way, Deku is going to be able to avoid those two, so that's pretty good. Anyways, the other stuff does happen in the original canon, but Shoji and Tokoyami are going to try to make sure that Deku goes to the facility so he's, safe. I'm along with Todoroki and Bakugo, which kind of does speak to Bakugo's development a little bit earlier because he does respect Deku a lot more and, doesn't want him to be captured by villains, which is logical. Also, if you're going to ask about Tetsu, Shinsu will be the one who takes place of Kendo, so, that's there. Anyways, Deku will be, will try to be escorted back to the facility so he can protect it instead of Katsuki like in original story. And unlike in original story, instead of Katsuki being kidnapped by Compress, guess who Compress targets? You guessed it, Deku. Bakugo and Ochako want Deku back, and of course Tokoyami, but Compress is like, nope, he is ours. And it's either going to be like he joins them or something bad happens to him. And we'll go on stuff about free will and stuff because that's still philosophy. Bakugo will actually, instead of being floated by Ochako, will just use the explosions, and Suyu and Ochako will just do the rest like in original canon. When it comes to the Compress and other stuff that happens, since Bakugo wasn't the guy who suffered all the injuries from the Muscular fight, he's able to grab Deku's marble, and Shoji will be able to grab Tokoyami as well. Dabi and company will battle, but then out of nowhere a flashlight happens, and Deku fuses with the marble, and then, in a bit of a marble skin form, and then defuse with it. Deku smiles and says, took a while for that to happen, but good to know I could fuse with the marble. Deku then goes to the Nomu and decides, you know what, I'm gonna fuse with this thing again, and then he fuses with the Nomu. Deku in his Nomu form is like, I know you want to capture me and everything, but I was just you run away, unless you won't want me to fight you in this Nomu form. Shigaraki had to learn this the hard way. Dabi and company realized that they were at a bit of a disadvantage, so Compress and company need to make their escape while they can, because dealing with a guy who has the powers of a Nomu and isn't mindless is really, really, really bad. Or before they can make their escape, Toga kicks Shoji, who still has Tokoyami's marble, and then grabs the marble. Before Deku and Kami can do anything, the villains escape, and Class 1A has just lost one of their students to the villains. And instead of Bakugo, it's Tokoyami, who, Tokoyami's really cool. The attack is still, putting a bit of a damper on the faith of heroes, stuff like that, because with someone like Tokoyami, a guy who was relatively known because of the fact he plays in the sports festival, well, yeah, that's not a good look for UA no matter what. Even once you're getting kidnapped is a bad look, but when it's someone who's like famous as Bakugo or Deku situation or Tokoyami, well, yikes. The good news in this timeline is Deku does not have the damage to his arms, as he doesn't have one for all, and he didn't break his bones at all and didn't push himself to limits in the muscular fight. So yeah, so while there are probably a couple bruises, maybe a fracture here and there from his fight with Muscular because he was slammed into rock over and over again, though it was in titanium form. It wasn't as severe as when he fought Muscular in the original canon and had the threat of potentially not being able to use his arms again. So yeah, that's pretty good for him. Deku will still feel guilty about Tokoyami because a lot of this stuff is on him because he was a target of League of Villains, and there's going to be a bit of a shift on who wants to get Tokoyami in this situation, not Bakugo, but again Tokoyami. Shoji, feeling bad about letting Tokoyami get captured by League of Villains, wants to join the rescue effort replacing Kirishima. Bakugo wants to do so as well, as he needs a little bit of redemption. And Deku will tell the girls who are not going, and Kendo and Ochako, that he's gonna do all this. And on the surface, they're like, do what you can and be safe. Deep down, they're kind of a bit uneasy, Momo is, going to come along as well because, obviously. In terms of Ida, he will not be as upset because of one of the factors of Ida snapping like he did with Deku was, a person that he called a friend looked like his brother when he saw him in the hospital. However, he does feel that his concerns are not being addressed. And since Deku is the class representative, he's got a lot of responsibility here, and doing this might be a bit not great, Deku says he will take responsibility for his class and also wants to make sure that all of them are safe and sound. And of course, since, Tokoyami is a classmate, he's got to make sure he's safe. Ida eventually surrenders, and Deku and Company will get to work. Mirio will be in the fight with All Might against, for the Hideout Raid Arc along. So, yeah. And even Night Eye will join the fight, so that's going to be pretty good. So then UA will essentially launch their own counterattack. Deku will be able to fuse with a small air fan, so yeah, and that will create a bit of an air current for him, so he can use a bit of a boost. Since Shochi's alone for the ride in this one, he kind of adds a little bit more weight than Kirishima, so yeah, Deku's boost kind of helps. And of course, Bakugo and Ida will be involved with this because Bakugo is using his explosions, Ida's using his engine, so yeah, that all makes sense for them. So it's gonna be like a fourth man formation to help get Tokoyami versus the original Free, I believe. Yeah, Free. So, yeah. Tokoyami, who has been more tolerable than Bakugo for the League of Villains, though that's not saying much. We'll see his friends up there when to conduct the operation. And Mirio, using full cowling and it's one for all, with quick thinking, throws Tokoyami up, and Shoji will grab Tokoyami's hand. Tokoyami will thank everyone for their efforts, and though he kind of feels a little bit bad because, he's been saved way too many times. Everything will go around the same, everything else, as All Might and All For One will have their final battle, where All Might still smacks All For One with the United States Smash. Inka, while having fought some Nakame in her son at UA, will not be as inclined as she was in original canon because Deku hasn't had the factor of having permanent damage to his arms like in original canon. And besides, if it came to that, All Might would probably still, try to guarantee that he would take care of Deku, so Inka wouldn't have to worry as much. So yeah, even though their relationship isn't probably the same as it was in original canon, it's still there, and it has been developed. It just hasn't had the time like it did in original canon because, Deku kind of came to All Might a little bit later, and, Deku doesn't have one for all, but he has been trained with Mirio, and there is still a relationship there. Deku will move into dorms, and there are the girl and boys rooms, so, that's there. And I think for Deku's room, he'll have a little less All Might there, a little less. It'll still be there, but it won't be, whatever we saw. And if you can guess, Aizawa will still chew out those who went to rescue Tokoyami in this case, but instead of Kirishima, it's Shoji and Bakugo, which will still have the same effect on everyone like in canon. We will have a little room contest, so there's that, and we'll have the same winner. And of course, later on, Deku and company will have to comfort Tsuyu because, that happened. Later on, Deku and Momo decide to talk with Itsuka and Ochako. Deku will say, I know Suyu was very sad about the whole ordeal, but how did you guys feel about what we did in the end? Ochako will say, we were kind of worried you two would not make it back, because even though we know that you two are very strong in your own unique ways, it's still scary to think about, especially since you're going up against a group of villains like that. Itsuka will then say, for me, I can understand it as you do have a code to protect people in martial arts, but like Ochako said, it was worrying. I just hope to never have that same uneasy feeling again. Deku and Momo nod, and then Ochako then says, at the end of the day, as Aram sisters, still gotta censor myself a little bit, and your girlfriends, we stand with you no matter what, and we will support you along the way. Itsuka will then say, but please, don't do something as reckless again, maybe until we get a provisional license, okay? And then Momo and Deku nod, and then all of them embrace, and Deku kisses all his girls. They then head back to dorms, and then they're also debating when they should reveal their little unconventional but legal relationship, and agree to do it after provisional license exam. It is logical, and there will be less distraction involved, as they would have already gotten their provisional licenses by now, and if they reveal it now, it would be a bit too much of a distraction, you know? So Deku will be working on the next step to his quirk, and as of course, something called triple fusion. And in short answer, he'll be able to get, triple fusion within that train time skip, which is the fusion of 3 objects with Deku, or 2 objects in one person. In this case, it'll last around a minute and 30 seconds, a minute less than his dual fusion form. Then more details about the training and the provisional exam will come in next part. Yeehaw, soldiers, it's your boy, the Anime Sage, coming to another video, and this is What Deku Had to Fusion Quirk Part 7, and this is also the anime finale of the series, and I'll put a poll after this video where or not, I should go into the manga after, this anime finale, so, this should be fun. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Beautiful Halo. If you want some nice looking anime and meme apparel or clothing, this is the site for you. You can also use code MEME for 5% off of orders of $49+. I repeat, code MEME, and code MEMES for 10% off of orders of $99+. I repeat, code MEMES. Also, you buying some stuff there also supports me, so go check out Beautiful Halo. Their links will be in the description. And by the way, sorry I couldn't get this out to you guys yesterday, but I do believe I kept you guys entertained with What If Naruto is Have Uchiha Have Senju the movie, so, that's fine. In terms of this week, you guys will be getting the return of What If Naruto Was in Whirlpool Part 5 on Wednesday, and What If Naruto Was the Reincarnation of Stage 6 Pass on Friday. So this should be a lit week. Watch my community tab like a hawk as you guys give it updates, polls, the ability to select what would I see one for the week, and some more fun stuff in between. So again, watch my community tab like a hawk. Alright, time for some quick social media plugs. Twitter is at AnimeSage4, Instagram is anime_sage4, and join my Discord server. I will give you all reasons to follow/join us at the end of the video, so watch until the end. Alright, time for usual checklist. Well, potentially the last usual checklist, If you haven't seen the last part, the link to that will be in the description, and if you haven't seen the series at all, check out the playlist. With all that out of the way, let's get right into the anime finale. Alright, so we're now at the provisional license exam. Our heroes have been training hard, and Deku, during all the train, has gotten the triple fusion ability, To be very specific, Deku had been trying to complete the triple fusion for a bit, and multiple times been a bit short and had kind of been in a bit of a rut. Deku would then get some encouragement from his girls to get through it, and then Deku then asked for some gear from Mei Hatsumi, which is a bit of a new support package for his fusion costume, which can lead for some easier access to his, fusion items, and, maybe there's some resistance items to help out with his, fusion forms, so that's pretty good for him. Anyways, Mei will, still feel Deku's muscles, and Deku will not be as nervous in a way due to him being in, contact with 3 girls, has kissed them, hugged them, stuff that does not get me the yellow $sign. Deku will be interested in Hatsume's attributes, but, there is some other stuff he has to focus on, and while Ochako would have been very jealous like she was in Naruto canon, she's thinking that she could add in Hatsume, she got them attributes and stuff like that, In all seriousness, she would probably be a good candidate to join since she does seem to like Deku, so that is enough. Though, she could at least go for the Ida block first before, anything else. But then again, there is enough time for that as Class 1A, support department of Class 1E. Yeah, there's a bit of a gap there, so there's less of an opportunity for her to get Ida blocked. Yeah, this will probably be the only girl to not get Ida blocked. oh well, they can just torture her with some horror stories and she'll be just fine. Deku will be training and he's getting better and better, and he thinks he can get the triple fusion, and when he does so, by around the end of that little train arc, he's able to achieve triple fusion, and people like All Might and others are proud. In case you didn't pay attention to triple fusion in the last video where I explained it, here is again another explanation. Triple fusion involves the fusion between three objects or two objects in another person, or yeah, okay, you get it by now. The fusion form itself lasts a minute less than regular fusion or double fusion, so a minute 30 rather than 2 minutes and 30 seconds for double fusion. The provisional exam will happen, and it will actually go around the same for everybody, except Deku will be able to use his fusion quirk to fuse with his titanium and some other stuff as well, and will even add points fused with Ida during the actual final exam part, and he will be able to get the provisional license like in canon, though here I would think he would have a higher point total compared to his original canon counterpart, as I think he would have less staying around and stuff like that, so I think he would get a total of 96 points, which would be a couple points ahead of Yaoi Rozu. Kanto will get it as well Chaco and Momo, so good news for them. Todoroki won't get it because, well, he'll still get into that little situation. And finally, there was Bakugo, who I was debating on whether or not he was going to get it. He is nicer in his canon, so that is a bit of a good thing. However, on the other hand, he still has those tendencies like he had in original canon, so him not passing here will serve as motivation for him to get stronger, and not only that, improve on being a hero. Oh yeah, and the Toga stuff, yeah, she'll still escape, but, she can't really hurt Deku because, titanium and stuff like that. It's fine. It's fine. So again, I just say same stuff happened in canon, but in case people want to ask questions about that, you get it by now, okay? So anyways, so Bakugo will, want advice from Deku a little bit later, so he'll want to talk to Deku and will ask how he passed, and he didn't, and Deku will say that he has definitely made a lot of strides from his original self in a way, and more so than his canon counterpart. Let's be clear here, I'm referring to Bakugo here, and well, that will probably come later in the story, but who knows, it's not like I have been reading the manga. That's what we call sarcasm. I'm actually ahead of the manga and I'm not saying anything. Deku will then say, if you want to be stronger than me, that's fine, and I challenge you to do so, but if you want to be a hero and a stronger one at that, you might need to change how you, conduct yourself on certain things. You were great on the rescue mission, but there are still some, kinks that need to be worked out so you can really improve in those areas, as being a hero is more than about strength and displays of power, but I'm sure you're starting to realize that already. Bakugo looks down. Deku then says, you will pass the second time around. I believe it. Then both part ways and head to their dorms. A big thing that happens here is there's no Deku versus Bakugo fight, as Bakugo has really no reason to be mad like in canon because of three main reasons. One, Deku does not have this massive secret going on right now and didn't go from quirkless to having a quirk, so Bakugo doesn't really have anything to be angry at him for, so there is that. Two, he's not going through the same struggle like it was in canon, which was him having to deal with the thought that he was the main reason why All Might lost all his powers. Though Togami is going through something right now himself. And then finally, three, Deku and Bakugo are closer than in the original canon, so even if all these other factors existed, there is a better friendship between these two, unlike the original canon, so that's something pretty good. So this means there is no house arrest. This will be spent helping Tokiyami out as he's feeling guilty about All Might, though he would not do something like, find our sin because, Tokiyami's Tokiyami. He's a pretty cool dude, So, yeah. Deku will talk with Tokiyami as he does have a bit of an investment in him because, he's a bit of a friend. They teamed up together and stuff like that. So, he cares about him. Deku will be able to snap Tokiyami out of it, so he'll be out of that little funk. Deku said stuff like, you shouldn't blame yourself as much for stuff that you couldn't really control, but it's natural to feel that way because people at times feel guilty about stuff they can't really control and would wish they could do more and stuff like that. And, in general, it's just saying the right stuff to at least, get Tokiyami out of this little, funk and guilt that he's feeling right now. Tokiyami appreciates Deku's efforts, and now we get into the Mirio fight. The big three appear, and Deku is very happy to see Mirio. Everyone is shocked that Deku knows Mirio, and Deku says it is because they have trained a bit before. They've gone some sparsing, the good stuff, and everyone who rescued Tokiyami and saw him get Tokiyami into Sero's, hands, including Sero, and of course Tokiyami will thank him, including, again, Tokiyami and Sero, to which Mirio will say, just helping you guys out and doing my job as a hero. Bakugo is kind of jealous in a way because, Deku knows this amazing hero and stuff like that, but also has spar with him, so yeah, he kind of wants to prove himself, and he's not under house arrest, so that's going to play a bit of a role here. Mirio requests that Class 1A fight him, and the big difference here is Deku will not fight Mirio. He's used to sparring with Mirio, and he just wants to see how Class 1A does against him. Momo, Ochako, and Kendo will say that they will beat him, and Class 1A has a right to be confident as they have fought villains and have gone up against All for One. Well, some of them, but you get the point. Bakugo again will take the fight here as he's not under house arrest, and Bakugo wants to prove himself in a way that if Deku can spar with this dude, well, he can too. Can you guess what happens? Yep. Mirio proceeds to destroy all of them, hitting them in the stomach each time, like in canon. Though I think it would involve some full counting with his permeation, so yeah. Deku kind of gets some flashbacks to the pain and flinches a little bit because, you know, Mirio used to do that a lot. Shoto then says to Deku, "Is this a dude you have been sparring with?" Deku will then say, "Yep, besides me, I think he's a great candidate to be the #1 hero. He is truly one of the strongest out there and has even gone against some pros. I wanted to match his strength and be #1 hero, and I believe I can match his strength and be a strong force with my fusions. That or fuse with him, and I'm technically #1 hero in a way because my fusion form would be technically stronger than his regular form." Well, we would share a spot, but you get it. Shoto's like, whatever. Deku congratulates Mirio, and Mirio says he could have gone all out like he did with Deku, but, you know, chose not to in a way. And Bakugo and, you know, everyone else is shocked, even though, you know, some of them saw a bit of a glimpse of his power. If that's what's like him holding back, you know, what is he like when he's 100%? Because, you know, he does seem to have a lot of power, but if what he's saying is true, he definitely has a lot more power than they think, you know? Mirio will then explain his quirk, like, it's kind of like a package quirk, which he calls, you know, Permeation for All, which has a host of abilities such as Permeation, which he explains, you know, like he did in Original Canon, and also has strength enhancers as well and all that other jazz, which people are really now interested in Mirio because of how strong he is. Deku says Mirio is really amazing and the rest of the events play out the same. Later on, Deku will reveal his little situation with his girls, and the reactions eventually are accepting, as it's not illegal. However, there is a bit of jealousy because Deku has 3 girls while they all have, you know, none. You know, for the guys, you know. Then again, they gotta admit that Deku got game. He's got some game. Now we're on to season 4. Deku will be able to take the internship with Sir Night-Eye with more freedom compared to original canon because, you know, Night-Eye will be cool with Deku for obvious reasons because, you know, they train together and stuff like that. Deku will be glad to see Mirio as well, and then he meets Eri, and then events of that go around the same, and Deku and company will have to take on, you know, the Yakuza. A lot of the events will play out the same, just Deku battling his titanium form, which he does pretty well. And everything again will remain the same up until the Mirio versus Overhaul fight. In this one, Mirio smacks him over and over again as he combines his permeation with his One For All, or, you know, full cowling. Overhaul and his grunts know they have to do something as he is a bit of a force right now. Overhaul will be able to fire off his, you know, Quirk Destroyer bullet, and in this canon, can you guess what happens? Mirio only loses one of his quirks, which is permeation. This means that Mirio is useful because he still has One For All. So while Mirio feels the loss of permeation, he still has One For All and all these other quirks that will probably come to him very, very soon, you know. Deku will appear and smack Overhaul in the face. Mirio will tell him he lost his permeation quirk, and Deku will be mad, but he's also happy that Eri is in a way somewhat safe, but, you know, they gotta get her out of here. Mirio and Deku will have to fight Overhaul, and Eri will tell both of them to stop, as Overhaul has kinda destroyed her emotionally and physically, and she sees herself as a curse to anyone who comes into contact with her, so yikes. Overhaul then goes berserk and decides to start going to, you know, various forms using his Overhaul quirk, and both Mirio and Deku are getting kind of destroyed. Eri wants it all to stop, and Deku and Mirio want to keep going because they want to protect Eri. Unfortunately, I will also be in a bit of critical condition like it was in canon, so yeah, that's not going to be good. Ochaku is very worried about Deku and hopes he can win against Overhaul. Deku and Mirio will help trigger Eri's rewind quirk, and Deku and Mirio will fuse with each other and, well, along with Titanium, and with Deku's muscle strand, which, you know, is being preserved right now because they grabbed another muscle strand from Muscular and gave it to Deku, because I'll admit, Deku having muscle augmentation in his fusions is really cool, and I think there will be a nice way to preserve it, along as that was one of the things that May did with Deku's costume. And guess what? Oof, that fusion form is going to be very, very, you know, hard for Overhaul to take on, as it's 100% One For All, because, yeah, that's going to happen, along with Titanium and muscle augmentation, and along with some other boosts. Yeah, Overhaul is about to die. Deku and Mirio will be able to destroy Overhaul pretty easily, and Aizawa will come in clutch as he disables Eri's rewind quirk before disaster strikes. Sir Night-Eye will be in the hospital, and All Might will be sad, as well as Deku and Mirio. Deku had a closer relationship with Sir Night-Eye than in the original canon, as they trained together and all that type of stuff before the Overhaul arc. So to see a guy who we looked up as, you know, up to as a friend and a mentor is dying right there in the hospital bed is just sad. Deku kinda knows in a way Ida's pain, and it just gets a bit sadder as Naya will look into the future and sees great futures for both Mirio and Deku, and then he passes on, or dies. Deku is devastated as he has lost someone so close to him as Mirio, as both cry, "Sir!" later on, Deku was comforted by his girls over the whole incident. The girls, Uraraka, Momo, and Kendo, they'll tell me did great, specifically Uraraka since she was there, and Deku knows that he did everything he could, but wishes he could have saved Sir Night-Eye. Deku did save a little girl from the clutches of Overhaul, and he and Muriel did work hard and some other stuff like that, and has shown that he has gotten stronger, and Deku was able to be comforted by his girls, and he'll then make out with them. Nothing beyond that, but he does appreciate their efforts, and it kind of just shows that the relationship between all of them is just growing and growing and growing. Then we have the festival, and Deku's in the mood to cheer up Eri, as is Mirio. Mirio is not thinking about his own quirk being gone, as he can now focus on developing One for All, which might be actually good that permeation is now gone, because again, you can focus on, getting stuff like, well, I can't spoil that. Deku and Mirio will have the motivation to make sure Eri smiles, and Deku and Mirio will do the same stuff like in canon, find ways to, try to comfort Eri, show her around, stuff like that. Oh yeah, and by the way, Mineta isn't going to say the thing like, I can't wait to see how you are when you're older. And by the way, he said something worse in the manga, by the way. Oh my god. I don't know if I should really say that, but, whatever. Deku will, still need to be taught how to dance, because, I don't think he got dance lessons, but it'll be a bit easier for him because martial arts. Deku will also get upgrades from Mei as well in terms of his costume, and will have better access to fusion items, that type of stuff. Mei and Deku are slowly getting more and more attracted to each other, and then Mei is going to be dragged and will be talked to by a certain brown-haired girl, and also, well, two more. One black-hair, spiky-hair girl, and of course, one orange, I guess, or teal, whatever you want to call it, hair girl or whatever. Deku will go do his errands like in canon, and will battle Gentile Criminal like in canon, and will win because his fusion is more powerful and will combine with the muscle strand, his titanium, and stone, and will have an extremely powerful form that will defeat Gentle Criminal with a final punch. Deku will later hurry to the concert and will be on stage for a bit longer, as instead of the Aram scene with Mineta, can you guess who is in it this time? Yep, Deku, the guy with the actual Aram. Yep. Deku will use his titanium to help out Aoyama, and Eri will be able to smile like in canon. Although Aoyama can't necessarily relate to Deku as much, as Deku's quirk seems to fit his body, so they'll have to play a little bit of a role later on, who knows. Later on, Deku will be able to meet up with Mei and his other girls, and Deku will be curious on what is going on, but he has a feeling he knows what's actually going on. Deku asks, what is this about? And Mei will say, I want to join your Aram. Deku will be like, alright, sure. Mei will be like, wait, that's it? Deku will say, I mean, the other girls must have proved to you, especially since, we're here, so yeah, it's kind of that easy. Mei will say, thank you, and then Deku and Mei kiss. And then Deku makes out with his girls and Mei. Nothing beyond that, so nothing, that's fine. Nothing, I know what you guys are going to think, but, nothing beyond that at all, okay? Good. And everything else will play out the same in Season 4, including the Endeavor versus high-end Nomo fight, which, that was probably going to put a bit of a Todoroki on the edge of his seat at the end of the day, but Deku was able to, help Todoroki out a little bit. But Deku knows that Mirio is eventually going to have to get to that point where he's going to be the symbol of peace, because, well, yeah, when there's no symbol of peace, some chaos is going to rise. In fact, it's already rising, so yikes. So then Deku will, talk more with his girls. Well, the only three he can really talk to right now at the moment, because Mei's in a different dorm. And, they have their conversations and stuff like that, and, they have a bit of hope that maybe society can at least calm down a bit, but they also know that they have to get stronger, so they all form a pact that they will get stronger and, be able to at least make sure that people are okay, have their provisional lives and stuff like that. So, yeah, they're gonna have to make sure that they get stronger and stuff like that, so, yeah. And then later on, Deku will not have anything happen to him. Let's just say Mirio's on the verge of unlocking something himself. What it is, I will not say, as we're out of anime content, and if you want me to go into the manga, I suggest you vote for that. And if not, this will be finished until Season 5 finishes, which is when this series will be off that little hiatus. Thank you all for watching What If Deku Had a Fusion Quirk Part 7, the anime finale. So, yeah, if you want me to go into the manga, you're going to have to vote. If not, well then this series is going to be on a bit of a hiatus until, like, 2021, which is probably when MHA Season 5 will come out. Get ready for the what ifs this week. They'll be fire. Make sure to check out Beef Halo. That really does help me out a lot. Watch my community tab like a hawk. That is also really important. And finally, follow me on Twitter for another way to get enough of my videos. Instagram for memes and smartphone stuff in between. And finally, join my Discord for access to supplementary content, notification when I live stream ahead of time, and of course, the ability to suggest me ideas directly. Also, make sure to check out that movie that I, uploaded yesterday. That's also pretty cool as well. We're so close to 10K, around 20 waves, so let's get there. And thank you guys so much for support lately. It's been really crazy. And that is all I have to say. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and share the video. This has been your boy, the Anime Sage. Sign out. Peace. Yorta. Stephanie Shea closes out. Bye-bye. Peace.
Hi, this is Stephanie Shea, voice actress for Sailor Moon, Hinata, Orihime, and you are watching Anime Sage.